Will you lead us in
Yes,
Pledge of Allegiance?
please stand for the
Councilman
pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This flag, pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Now we will go into recognition, awards, and proclamation, announcements, and presentations. The first one is proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month. Councilmember Gordon will deliver this.
Thank you very much. National Historic Preservation Month proclamation. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for communities across the nation for managing growth and sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas Smithville was once a major passenger hub on the Missouri, Kansas, Texas Railroad, and the James H. Long Railroad Park continues to honor our unique heritage under the leadership of the Smithville Railroad Board and the Smithville Area Chamber of Commerce. And whereas the Smithville Commercial Historic District and the Smithville Residential Historic District are on the National Register of Historic Places, and the Smithville Residential Historic District is a recorded Texas Historic Landmark. And whereas the Smithville Historic Preservation Design Standards Advisory Committee was established to protect the character of the historic commercial area of Smithville, to preserve its built history, and to foster economic and community vitality while honoring and protecting the social fabric and community culture of the community. And whereas the architectural design standards were created as guidelines for rehabilitation, redevelopment, maintenance, and preservation of its existing historic structures and providing design standards for the development of new construction projects within the Smithville Historic Commercial District. And whereas the city has established a historic market program that encourages community members to designate their historic properties and/or significant events to recognize contributions from the past. And whereas Smithville has a long-standing history and tradition of honors such as the first film-friendly designation and a vibrant cultural arts district that is an officially designated cultural arts district, which significantly enhances the historic fabric of our town. And whereas since 1975, the Smithville Heritage Society has worked to preserve, protect, and enrich the stories and histories of Smithville through their archival records and research, the Heritage House Museum and Archives, special events and programming, and partnerships that showcase and support the historic fabric of the community. And whereas May is National Historic Preservation Month, co-sponsored by the Smithville Heritage Society, the Smithville Historic Preservation Design Standards Advisory Committee, and the City of Smithville.
Now therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Smithville, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Historic Preservation Awareness Month and call upon the people of Smithville to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Passed and approved on this 15th day of May 2023. Next is Police Officer Memorial Day and National Police Week proclamation. Councilmember Etheridge.
Mayor, whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the Smithville Police Department agency play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the city of Smithville. And whereas all citizens must know and understand the duties, responsibilities, agency hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent. against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the law enforcement agency of Smithfield Police Department unceasingly provide public service.
Now therefore, I, Sharon Forrester, Mayor of the City of Smithfield, on behalf of the Smithfield City Council, call upon all citizens of Smithfield and all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 14th through May 20th, 23 as Police Week.
Appropriate ceremonies and observance in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and securities of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Smithville to observe Monday, May 15th, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day. In honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes.
Thank you. Proclamation for Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. Councilmember Bruno.
Today's society is finding more citizens involved in motorcycling. And whereas campaigns have helped inform riders and motorists alike to motorcycle safety issues, to reduce motorcycle-related risks, injuries, and most of all fatalities through a comprehensive approach to motorcycle safety. And whereas it is a responsibility of all who put themselves behind the wheel to become aware of motorcyclists and to obey all traffic laws. And whereas motorists are encouraged to become aware of the inherent danger involved in operating a motorcycle, and for riders and motorists alike to give each other the mutual respect they deserve.
Now therefore, I, Sharon Forrester, Mayor of the City of Smithfield, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month in the City of Smithfield and urge all residents to do their part to increase motorcycle safety and awareness in our community. Did you bring a bunch of people with you? Well, I don't. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Be safe, young man. Thank you. The Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
And the last proclamation is for a great friend of ours that has done a lot of great things here in Smithfield, Mr. Benny Leaders. We have a proclamation for him. Whereas the mayor and the city council of the City of Smithfield from time to time recognize citizens of Smithfield who have distinguished themselves. And Benny Leaders was one of 7 children born between Muldoon and Cistern, Texas on January 10th, 1928. And whereas at the age of 17, Benny joined the Coast Guard during World War II, and he joined the Army during the Korean War. While in his 20s, he obtained his pilot's license and flew private planes, achieving the Wright Brothers Master Pilot Award for over 50 years of safe flying. And whereas Benny was a charter member of the Smithfield Flying Club, the Friends of the 84R, he held the effort to get the Urban Road Memorial Pilot Lounge built. In addition, he built 2 hangars at the Smithfield Crawford Municipal Airport and another 5 hangars at the Fayette Regional Airport in LaGrange. And whereas being part of the greatest generation, Benny Leaders was not afraid of hard work. Benny had many successful endeavors, including a vacuum cleaner salesman, shipyard welder, pipeline welder, riding stable owner, charter boat fishing captain, marina owner, real estate developer. Winding out his career, Benny moved back to Smithfield in the early 1980s, where he built a car wash, a used car lot, and developed the Oak Meadows subdivision. However, his greatest passion, beside his family, was music. And whereas during the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, Benny played in several bands, Jimmy Dean for one, and played backup for various recording artists like Dottie West. He had his own band, Benny Leaders and the Western Rangers, recording and a radio program. At one time or another, his band members included such stars like the actor-singer Tommy Sands, Grand Ole Opera star Hank Lachlan, Rockabilly Hall of Fame member Link Davis, and Herb Remington, developer of the Remington steel guitar. And whereas Benny Leaders was inducted into the Texas Western Swing Hall of Fame in 2019, and whereas Benny Leaders was married to Mary Leaders for 53 years and has 2 daughters, 7 grandkids, and 17 great-grandkids. Benny passed on April 23rd, 2023 at the age of 95. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city council and the city of Smithfield, Bastrop County, Texas, that May 15th will be recognized as Benny Leaders Day. Miss Mary, will you come up here?
Oh,
Thank you.
nice.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes. Sorry, I did not see you. I'm not for sure how I did. Sorry, you can have it back. Oh, definitely. Where is, oh, there's, thank you.
Say cheese.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda. Approval of the minutes from March 13th, 2023, council member and public hearing, specifically page 2 that was not in the packet last month. The April 10th, 2023 council meeting and public hearing, and the April 24th, 2023 special called council meeting. Council, you have any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the March 13, 2023 council meeting and the public hearing, specifically page 2 that was not in the packet last month, the April 10th, 2023 council meeting and public hearing, and the April 24th, 2023 special called council meeting.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and second, all approved. 1, 2, 3.
I vote. I don't want it.
Right.
You got that one?
The 24th of April.
Okay, and then with that exception, motion carries. Approved, okay. Next item on the agenda, discussion and action on the resolution canvassing the May 6, 2023 municipal general election. State of Texas, City of Smithfield, County of Bastrop, Resolution 2023-055507. A resolution in order canvassing the returns and declaring the results of a city of officers election. Whereas a general election was held on the 6th day of May 2023 for the purpose of electing the hereinafter officials, and whereas it appears for said return duly and legally made that there were cast in said election of 577 valid and legal votes, and whereas each of the candidates in said election received the following votes: Alderman, place 1, a 2-year term, Tyrone Washington, 315, Mitchell Jamison, 262. Alderman, place 2, Tom Etheridge, a 2-year term, 467. Alderman, place 3, a 2-year term, Jimmy Jenkins, 319, Monica Pose, 247. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Smithfield, Texas, that said election was duly called, that notice of said election was given in accordance with the law, and that Tyrone Washington was duly elected Alderman, place 1, Tom Etheridge was duly elected Alderman, place 2, and Jimmy Jenkins was duly elected Alderman, place 3, and said named parties are hereby declared duly elected to said respective offices, subject to taking their oaths by law of the state of Texas. Passed and approved this 15th day of May, 2023. Councilman, I need a motion? Oh.
Madam Mayor, make a motion that we go ahead and accept the resolution for canvassing on the May 6th, 2023. Yes, I'll second.
A motion has been made. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Approved. Okay, Joanna and Bill, before y'all exit, we got a little present for you.
Reverse it. Oh, boy.
All right, Bill, you gotta stand up one last
Yes,
time and
ma'am.
act like you like me.
Photo op.
Presented to William Dale Gordon for his dedicated service to the city of Smithfield as council member for 8 years, 2015 to 2023.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, get a chance to say it. A couple things.
Go ahead.
I wanted to make a couple of comments here. And thank you all. I want to thank the citizens of Smithfield for allowing me to be a public servant as your city councilman, place 3. It's an honor to serve for 8 consecutive years. Much has been accomplished. It's been a joy to work with many volunteers and servants of this community, our first responders, fire and law enforcement, numerous volunteer organizations in our town, my colleagues here up on the panel, and most importantly, it's been a joy to work with the citizens who provide their voices to help guide our decisions. To the incoming members of the City Council, I congratulate you all. As you take this new journey of service, you will find that not only will you help guide and change Smithfield, you will be changed in this process, all for the better. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, Miss Joanna. Presented to Joanna Morgan for her dedicated service to the city of Smithfield as interim council member, presented on the 15th day of May, 2023.
Second what Bill said. It has been an honor to serve on the council for 12 years, and I'm very grateful to all citizens that have been so supportive of the council moving this forward. And I hope, along with all the rest of you,
sir. I'll still be around.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Joanna. Uh, What is that? Oh. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to move on to administering the pre-oath and oath of the office for elected officials. I'm going to ask all three of you just to come up here in the front, and then I'm going to read the oath of office and the pre-oath to you. You're not up for re-election. It's just Tyrone. Oh, that's okay. It's calm. All right. Thank you for your service, and I look forward to the big things we're going to do here in Smithville. I'm going to say, state your name at the part. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. Title of position which you were elected. I do. I know it doesn't really say, but I guess just I do. I do. Uh, Okay, well, that got weird. Okay. The title of position is City of Smithfield Council Member Place 1, Tyrone Washington. City of Smithfield Council Member Place 2, Tom Etheridge. Council Member Place 3, Jimmy Jenkins. Under the penalties of perjury, I declare that I have read the foregoing statement and that the facts stated therein are true. I do. Okay. I think this is where you're going to have to come to Tracy with her notary stamp. Congratulations. Thank
Congratulations. Can't get back there.
I don't think I read the second page. Okay, guess what, you three? Y'all can just stay where you are, but you gotta say I do again. And I lost my glasses. Oh, other one was a yes. Sorry about that. Okay, guess what? You gotta state your names again. I, Jimmy. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have, oh, I done did that. Let me get to the right page here. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the City of Smithfield Council Member. Place to. Of the state of Texas, and will do my best to my abilities to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. So help me God. I do. I do. Okay, I think she'll have you sign, or she may already did have you sign. Usually Jennifer does this, but she is out today, so I'm learning as I go. So we got that one. I did. We jump to number 9 now. Hear from each of the candidates for the place 4 vacancy.
Council and newly elected and re-elected council members, congratulations, and mayor and citizens. I wanted to give you kind of an outline of how this proceeding is going to go, or this particular action item. Per Texas Local Government Code, Section 22.010A, or a general law type A municipality, which is what the city of Smithfield is, if for any reason a single vacancy exists on the governing body of the municipality, a majority of the remaining members who are present and voting, excluding the mayor except in a tie, may fill the vacancy by appointment. The following individuals have submitted their requests for consideration: Mr. Derek Kahanik, Mr. Garrett Gutierrez, Mitch Jameson, Daniel Herna, Monica Poss, Joanna Morgan, and Mark Richter. The candidates above will be given 3 minutes to address the council, at which time the council members will in turn ask questions of the candidate. After we get through with all of that, then the citizens who signed up to speak can address the council. You will have 3 minutes to do so. Please talk into the mic, state your name, where you live, and you can ask or comment to the council accordingly. At that time, we'll go into executive session. The council will deliberate on what they've heard here and come back out and decide who the appointment's going to be. Sound good? Any questions? Okay, now to this process, we're also to try to make it as fair as possible. We're going to draw names of the candidates who will come up first to speak at the podium. Mayor Forrest, do you have the envelope?
All right, Janice, reach in. First name, read it out loud.
Mitch Jameson.
Mr. Jameson.
Come on down. Will you please state your name? Where you live?
Mitchell Jameson, 702 Olive Street. You started the timer yet? I always have problems with that. First of all, speaking to the applicants and the people here tonight and watching online, I'm genuinely excited to see so much interest in this process. I believe the way those of us who stood for election campaigned helped create this interest. We created unprecedented access through multiple candidate forums and social media interaction. In simple terms, we put ourselves out there and did the work to find out what the voters want from our council. We knocked on doors, took live questions at forums where you made us think on our feet without the benefit of scripts. We met people one-on-one and answered calls and emails. To all of you on the dais, I thank you for creating an objective process to handle this unforeseen scenario. I'm sure we'll learn from this and be prepared with a formal process in the future. This isn't an election. This isn't about finding a placeholder to hold down the fort or provide continuity until the next election. It's not a training exercise. This is about the council selecting the most qualified candidate who can join you now and have an immediate impact on getting the job done for the citizens. This isn't a popularity contest. This is a job with real work and a huge commitment of time and energy. We've lost too much time already dealing with distractions over the last year. It's time to go to work. A little over a week ago, we did hold an election. I've heard it said that Monica and I lost our elections. I adamantly disagree. We both earned significant vote counts and percentages. We earned those votes by putting ourselves out there. And I believe the voters voted for change and fresh faces, not continuity. And they voted for people who invested the time and energy to earn those votes. There's a balance of experience and wisdom on the dais right now. And I'm asking you to add my experience and skill set to yours. I know each of you well, and you know me. You know my passion, my plans, and my vision to help Smithville help lead Smithville into the future. I campaigned on transparency, accountability, and reporting. I produced detailed plans to take care of hometown folks first by managing growth before growth manages us. Except for Monica, we haven't heard what the other applicants' plans are and how they may differ from mine. And I hope that that changes tonight. I started working on my plans last December and refined them as I got feedback from the community. I'm a known entity. I put in the work and I know what the people want done. To the other applicants seeking appointment tonight, I want you to know I'll support you if you're appointed. I'm not going away. If I'm appointed, I look forward to your assistance to help us with the work ahead. We'll have numerous task forces and committee positions that need leadership. I will also be sponsoring an internship and mentorship program to help prepare leaders for the future. I can't thank you enough for your interest and willingness to serve. It's truly exciting to see this much interest at a time in our history when the decisions that we make over the next year will have a huge impact on our future. Thank you for being willing to take on the challenge. Are we doing questions now?
Very nice. Okay, I think you stay there.
I forgot to tell folks that multiple letters of support were submitted up into the deadline to publish those agenda packet by Friday at 6. The individuals who submitted letters after that have since been posted to the website. So I got letters as of 4 o'clock this evening. Those are now posted to the website, just FYI. Okay, thank you.
We're doing questions after we all speak. All right.
Council, you have a question? No, we'll just go all the way down.
Janice, you go first.
Janice, you go first.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. The way that I'm looking at all the folks, okay, is there are effective qualifications for city council members, okay, and it's outlined in our Texas Municipal League guide. And so I thought the fairest way for myself, I'm not speaking for any of the other council members, was to go ahead and go through what some of those effective measures are of a city council person. One of those is, of course, you're anchored in the community. Can you help the city move forward? But specifically, I heard you say that you wanted to do some sort of an internship mentorship program. That falls into the category of how do you set the priorities and work as a team? How will you do that if you are elected?
In terms of working as a team or working on the priorities of the people?
The priorities of the people. And you mentioned briefly that you would start some sort of an internship mentorship program. How would you do that? Or what would you do?
Well, there's a couple of different facets to that. First of all, in terms of working as a team, I'm fresh off of almost 6 months of talking to people. So I've got a good idea of what people want to see done and the proactive counsel that they're looking for. I can bring those thoughts and add them to those of you who have campaigned and been elected, and also speak constantly to the people. What I've learned in terms of there were 2 needs, and I'm really excited to see so much interest, because we've got a future here and we can develop future leaders. And, specifically, whether the process is that we mentor up with 1 or more council people or shift around and go through the process of preparing. For instance, I didn't get the full deck until yesterday, but I knew Friday to go look for the agenda packet. There's over 200 pages in here. There's a process that you have to go through. And the fact that I would be comfortable tonight if I joined you, because I was at all the other meetings where these issues that are on the agenda are already here. But that's part of that process of understanding how all of this works. we've got great talent, great young people who are very much involved in the community. And I think that this is a great opportunity for us to find some sort of program to match up with them and get them ready for the next step. And another facet to that, and I talked to other people about it, I would like us to reach out to the high school and schools and let's work on some programs, getting them involved in the civic process. Certainly it's some requires a lot of volunteer work, but I think we can all spread that out.
Thank you.
Tom?
It's no secret that I think you've probably not missed a council meeting and perhaps a planning and zoning meeting for at least the last year and a half or so, maybe 2 years. We've talked before about the difference when you're standing up at the podium, you're representing yourself or your interest, but when you're up here, you're representing all of Smithville. How do you transition from being such an engaged and vocal citizen that speaks from that position to be able to work with a group of people for all of Smithville?
I love doing it. Sitting on this side of the dais at this podium, when there's times I've spoken to represent my individual interest or those of smaller group or special interest within the community, and people started reaching out to me because they knew I understood the process and the ordinances and what was going on. But when you transition to that side, the personal interests have to be set aside. This is going to be about what we've learned that the people want us to do. We have to, I think as a group, we have to decide and, we'll have to get together and figure out what the top 10 or 12 or 15 priorities are based on what we've all learned. And then we have to focus on that. But once you're on that side, you don't, in my opinion, you don't represent yourself. You're representing the people.
Any other questions? Anyone signed up to speak for Mitch? We do that later. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone. The people in the back, very back row can't hear, and the people online can't hear. So please, council members and candidates, eat the microphone.
My name is Garrett Gutierrez. As many of y'all know, I reside at 603 Short Street. I'm not a born and raised Smithvillian, but I've had ties to this community my entire life. From many summers of spending time at my great grandmother's house on Short Street to visiting my grandmother that worked at Gidler's department store. I've seen this town grow, and I've seen it kind of decline and come back. I studied at Texas A&M University, where I received an agriculture leadership development degree, which prepared me for a leadership role at the local, state, or national levels. And I've used every bit of that I learned throughout my career thus far. I've been in management now for 10 plus years, getting to work with different people every day and also working with members of the community. I also have completed my TOMA Open Meetings Act training, and I've been on the planning and zoning for the last year. I've only missed one meeting. I had a surgery that day and just couldn't come, unfortunately. When I moved here in 2009, there wasn't much going on for a 25-year-old, but this community has always drew me in, and there's nowhere else that I'd raise a family. I have seen Smithville change so much over the years. I've seen this community grow, and I must say there are more options for eating out now than there was when I moved here. Growth can be exciting and scary at the same time, but it's going to happen no matter how we feel about it. I would love to be part of the leadership of the city of Smithville to help determine what that looks like and how it happens, and in a way that would make our citizens proud. Some may ask, why didn't you run before if you're interested? The short answer is, it wasn't the right time. One may ask, why is now the right time just a few short months later? When this place 4 vacancy came open, my wife actually came up to me and said, why don't you put your name in the hat for it? I haven't had that support from her in the past. It was always, hey, I don't know, you've got 2 young kids at the house, and we're very much 50-50 on everything. We work hard together to raise our kids, and that's going to mean the dedication that it would take for me to sit on the council would mean that she's got more obligations at home than she normally does. So to have that support, she's actually here with me tonight, my beautiful wife, Sarah. It means a lot, and that's kind of why I'm here, and I want to serve the city of Smithville.
One question, which is why you didn't, but I would also like to ask you, if you are not selected, and this may be for Sarah as well, will you still support him in next May if he's not appointed to run again? Okay. And would you commit to do that if you're not chosen tonight?
And, you know, I think it depends on who's chosen and if I feel they're doing a great job and who is up for the election, whether I would choose to run against them or not. It's not about a position for me and having a title. It's about having people on the council that are good for the city of Smithville and the citizens. And if those people are already in those positions, I don't know that I would run against them. If in my heart, I felt that they were doing what they're supposed to do.
Fair
But,
enough. Thank you.
but I would run, yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you answered that question too, also for me. Without any specific agenda, Garrett, what would be your passion? What would you want to do to help move the city forward?
As I mentioned, growth is on our doorstep. In my position at work now, I see this growth every day from a perspective that ranges from about Manor, Texas, all the way to San Marcos, and then over to Luling and the areas that in Smithville, south of Smithville, that aren't growing as fast, but it's coming. And my goal is to listen to the citizens of Smithville and hear what they want to see and how they kind of want to see it, and try to lead in that direction and make Smithville a place for them to be happy, and not necessarily a place that just explodes overnight and it looks like what it looks like. And I think the perfect example of that, in my opinion, is Manor all the way to Elgin on 290, and the houses that are just slammed on top of each other and that kind of stuff. There's places for that kind of growth in any community, but I think that we need to make it look right when we do it. And the first thing that I feel that people don't want to see when they pull off the highway into Smithville, they want to see Smithville the way that Smithville has been, and try to keep to that same look.
How would you engage the citizens? How would you invite the community input?
I think that one thing that I would try to do is try to get more, some of my generation or some of the citizens of Smithville around my age to get involved as well and start voicing their opinions. You know, I have a feeling that a lot of the times they just sit back. I was one of them. Just sit back and they don't really know what's going on with the city, and they just live and it's okay. But if their voices were out there, I think we would have a more well-rounded decision that we would make amongst the council that would benefit everybody.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to ask? Got it. I think this is Mr. Daniel Herna.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mayor and the council, for giving me this opportunity to speak. Been wanting to speak to this council for quite a while, as you noticed. Basically, you want to know where I came from, and I was born in Taylor, Texas, grew up in Deming, New Mexico, went to college at the University of Houston and I had a law degree and a pharmacy degree, and I've practiced both in healthcare law for over 60 years. I'm very interested in health issues and a whole bunch of other things that I don't have time for. But basically, where we're coming from is we are at a point of no return. I have been watching the different news media and what have you, and I'm seeing a lot of problems with people's communication. And then I see the times that are being committed. The crimes are horrendous. Today I read in my native New Mexico, 4 people got wiped out for no reason at all. Because we see these guns, and I'm not talking about gun control or anything. I'm talking about people growing up, looking up and trying to make everything safer. The police department is well aware of this. The training classes out here in Bastrop are working on that. These are issues. We also talk about property taxes. Property taxes we need to look at. I was very disappointed when I looked at the Austin Statesman and found out that my number one piece of legislation to refund some of the property taxes didn't make it. They're apparently going to go build 8 new casinos instead, as far as I could tell from the article. That seems to be a more favored thing. I also want to give credit for a couple of folks I know. My wife, Kathy, and Zelka Herna, who, because of her, I'm here. Thank God. And that was a good choice. Kathy, and it was an excellent choice for Smithfield for me. Also, do any of you recall a band director here by the name of Lee Fonts?
That's old school.
Yeah. Lee Fonts was my band director at the University of Houston ROTC. And he set me straight several times, and I owe him a lot. So I want to thank Lee publicly as one of your citizens. Okay,
Wow.
thank you. And all I have to say is that I will work with this council just as I worked with the Houston City Council, as well as I've worked with the state legislature to try to pass laws that will benefit Smithville, Texas. And I will work with this council and the people and the public. And I will respect the feelings of the general public who often come with ideas, but they're a little shy. If I am elected and I have an office, the door is always open. And I'm always open to new ideas.
Mr. Herna, it's time,
Thank you.
but I'll come visit with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Herna, I just have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your service. I know you sit on a couple boards. You've been very involved in the community
I'm
since.
sorry I didn't mention.
Yeah, but that's okay.
I
I
like that board very much.
I recognize you are involved. You're involved in the Smithville Workforce Training Center. I mean, you've come to all the meetings. You really have a lot of input. As it relates to the city's business, how would you best communicate with the citizens? How would you do that?
We need a communication mechanism. I miss the newspaper. I miss the radio station. In Deming, New Mexico, we started a 50-watt radio station. I miss although television media does do a pretty good report on the news and what have you, but they only publish the spectacular news. The daily things that they usually drop off, although sometimes they'll include them. But we need to communicate what's happening in Smithville.
Okay.
Like I spent all day the other day trying to find something. I don't remember now what it was, but it wasn't that important, but I couldn't find it either. And folks, I think you find that to be true often.
One other question, this has to do with if you were on the council, are you real familiar with establishing budgets and doing budgets?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I had $70 to $70 million budgets with Hospital Corporation of America.
okay, thank you.
And also one other thing I want to mention before I forget it, fentanyl. We do need to get on the ball with fentanyl. I'm a pharmacist. I've had fentanyl for open heart surgery. I think it's one of the finest drugs there is, but it's killed more people than anything else in the United States this last 2 or 3 years. So if I get the city council's help on that, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herna.
Thank
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. I'm Joanna Morgan. I live at 307 Ramona. I've served on the council for 12 years, so you already have an opinion as to my qualifications based on my performance on the council, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. I will say that it's been my pleasure to serve the community in this capacity. Instead, I'll tell you why I'm here tonight. My decision not to run for re-election was based on my belief that the community would benefit from fresh perspectives and more representation from younger members of our community. Bill Gordon's similar decision left 2 positions open with no incumbent, ensuring that at least 2 new members would be joining the council. My subsequent decision to apply for the appointment to place 4 was made for one reason only, and that is to offer the new council the option of keeping a 3rd experienced member in place while new members come up to speed, and hopefully to keep from losing momentum on projects that are underway or in the planning stages. With that said, I would like to specifically address the mayor and the council. With 6 other candidates for this position, all of whom have a record of service to the community, you may decide that another new perspective is the best choice. If so, I've spoken with each of you and have assured you of my continuing involvement and support as a private citizen. You know me, and you know that I'm sincere in that commitment. No candidate, including myself, is more entitled to this position than any other. Your decision should be based on the candidate's qualifications, their contributions to the community, and their proven leadership skills. Consider their ability to fairly represent the community at large in making decisions that promote the quality of life and future welfare of our citizens without agenda. In conclusion, without withdrawing myself from your consideration, I would like to ask you to give serious consideration to the candidates who represent the demographic which will shape the future of Smithville. The young men who at a time in their lives where they're pursuing careers and raising families are willing to dedicate time to public service. Thank you for your attention, and I believe the city of Smithville is in good hands.
Thank you for your service, Joanna. Appreciate you.
You're most welcome, Janice.
Hi, I'm Monica. Hi, I'm Monica Poss, 705 Hudgens Street. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak with you. I would absolutely love to serve my community. I do serve my community, but I'd love to serve it in a more formal capacity. And just to give back more to this town that has embraced me. But I will say, Jimmy and Tyrone and Mitch and I stepped up when the question of who was going to lead came up in January. We threw our names in the hat then. We put our time and our effort, our supporters' money, our own money into a leadership role, into trying to win support from the public. Mitch Jameson won 15 more votes than I did. Mitch Jameson is the one who organized the candidate forums at Fat Cat to make sure that we all had more opportunity to speak than candidates have had in the past. He organized 2 of those. He also organized the barbecue picnic at which the entire town was invited to come and meet all of us in a less formal environment. Would have been a great opportunity to know us more as people and talk less about the issues. I believe that Mitch Jameson is the most qualified and single most prepared candidate amongst all of us that ran, including the gentleman that won. And I actually voted for Tyrone. I think we need Tyrone's voice on council, but Mitch is better prepared, better researched with regard to governance issues than any of the rest of us are. So I am formally withdrawing my name from consideration and would like to throw my support behind Mitch. Thank you.
I just want to thank Monica for throwing her name in the hat and for going out there and running. I know that I had taken Monica to a Texas Municipal League conference and I was nudging her to run because she's so active, involved in the community. And I just want to say I appreciate everything you're doing in the community and your passion for all the things that you touch. So I just thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Also, you serve on a lot of different capacity and thank you for your passion also. And I appreciate you putting yourself out there. It's not easy. And thank you.
Monica, you know that a few months ago, you and I talked about your passion for public service and I encouraged you to run and to do it. And then you had a loss in your family. And you questioned whether or not it was the right time. And we had that conversation that night. And I said, don't lose that passion that you had. Don't let this be, where it ends for you. And I was really proud of you and appreciate that you picked yourself up and went through that. I'll reiterate what you said. And I think what Mitch said, I've said this publicly and privately. I think this campaign, and I haven't lived in this town a really long time, but I've seen, I guess, 3 elections now. The level of engagement and excitement was as much as I've seen, although I haven't been here a long time. And I think it's a credit to Jimmy and Tyrone and Monica and Mitch. And I think that everyone here is qualified. And the only sad thing is we're only going to be able to pick one tonight. That's why I really hope that the ones that aren't will commit to run again in May. I believe that at least 1 or 2 that don't get selected can be elected in May. Thanks, Monica.
On now. Oh, okay. Thank you. Monica, you were a formidable opponent and you were also a gracious opponent. You were very, very gracious to me the whole time at everything we did. And I really appreciate you coming up here and showing up. And I do hope that you run in the next election. You got it.
That's the spirit, Monica. Okay, we drew a name while we were talking. It's Derek Kahanik. Come on down.
All right, good evening, council members, Mayor Forrester and City Manager Robert Tamble. If you've ever listened to me speak at a golf cart tournament or Smithfield Jamboree, 3 minutes is going to be tough, but I'm going to try. Tonight's going to be tough. My daughter's at the school board meeting reading her essay about perseverance, and I don't miss anything from my daughter. I love her very much, and I think that what she's doing tonight plays a role in what I'm doing tonight as well. So I think it's important that I honor my commitment. She knows I'm here. She's supporting me. My wife's supporting me. So this process, like I said, it's been similar. We have 5 amazing candidates that have threw their name in the hat and are willing to serve. And I really appreciate that. I know it's a big ask. I believe the council requires character, integrity, empathy, and most important, the ability to lead or listen and engage. I've organized countless golf cart events for fundraising. We focus on exposure, awareness, recognition for the businesses, the community, and its participants. And we support local nonprofit organizations. Getting lost, sorry. Sorry, it is not required, but one of my biggest assets is having grown up in Smithville. It's part of the fabric of who I am. Because of that alone, I feel an obligation to give back to a town that has given me so much. Additionally, experience is not required, but with my dad, who's here tonight, Mike Kahanik, serving 17 years on the council, I had a front row seat. I was able to watch and learn as to what it takes, I believe, to be a strong and successful council member serving the citizens of the city of Smithville. And I feel that if chosen, I'm bringing that experience with me. That's how I see me, but it's been a whole lot different when you hear it from someone else. As the week has progressed, I've been blown away with the outpouring of support from not only my family, but our community. So many letters were sent in urging me to run for city council or put my name in the hat for this position. Even though I only saw a few, I thought they were not only well-written, but they came straight from the heart of this town. In a way, these supporters are my coaches. They're pushing me to continue my efforts and be an even bigger part of Smithville to make it the best place to live and raise a family, which is what I'm doing. It's been overwhelming, but extremely inspiring. Overall, it's increased my commitment and willingness to serve. Smithville may be a small town, but as Smithville General Store has always taught us, it has a big heart. They're investing in me and my family, so let's invest in them. In closing, as I stand here tonight, like Zoe, I only have one option: to persevere. I'd like to thank my family, my countless supporters. I just hope I've made y'all all proud. Oh, sorry.
Great. Other people have answered the question of, why they chose. I know you and I spoke about this at breakfast previously.
Right.
Would you share why, instead of running when the filing dates are open, why you chose to do this? And
Yeah, I
run?
think a big reason why I didn't run was financially. I didn't have the money to back myself. I didn't believe that standing on, campaigning without signs or anything like that. Stone needed braces. So, Stacy needed a new phone. Expenses were, our AC went out. We just had a lot of expenses that were coming up, and I just couldn't afford to run. And I've told people this all the time. If you're going to give me money, I'd rather you donate it. I'd rather you give it to the food pantry. I'd rather you give it to the robotics team. They need it more than I do. So I felt like when I was approached for this opportunity, it was one for me to get my feet wet, make my voice heard. I think as a voter, you get a vote, but we're counting on you all to make that decision. I think sitting up there gives us that voice. I want to leave my family a legacy to be proud of, and this gives me the opportunity to do that. I'm proud of my dad. He's done so much for this community, and I don't stand on his coattails. I'm trying to pave my own road. So that's why I didn't run. It was financially, and just, I think, like Garrett said, timing is everything. There's things that have happened in my life that if I would have done it one day sooner, I may not have made it. So for us, timing is everything.
You're right. You had so many people send letters of support. I was very amazed. I mean, comments like respectable, intelligent, honorable. And then, of course, the fact that you've been so involved with the local charities and the golf, running the STX Golf Club and just going to the chamber mixers and working with the young people. And you and I did have an opportunity to talk, and you shared honestly, why you didn't put your name in the hat at the time. What would you do? I know you probably get feedback from the community, but if you were elected and you in this position here, what kinds of things would you do besides the golf thing that you do right now? What other things would you do to engage the community?
To engage the community, I would rely on social media. I mean, I'm young. My wife has taught me a lot. We've learned a lot. But I believe social media is where it's at, kind of fortunately and unfortunately. Being in my 40s, I didn't grow up in that area. I've seen it change. I've had to evolve. But I think I've gotten great engagements, both good and bad, utilizing social media. The golf cart club is great. I think that's where the old side of me, but the side that I grew up in, giving that face to face, meeting people I've never met, going into businesses I've never gone into, giving back to organizations I never knew existed. It's opened those doors and those windows of opportunity. And I think that one of the biggest things about what we do is we're all inclusive. I mean, it's community. It's either the east side, the west side, the north side, south side. It doesn't really matter. We want to do what's best for this community. And, I only have two investments: my family and this town. I don't have rental houses. I don't have lots, nothing like that. So my investment is my family and this community, and that's it. And I'll use what my dad told me one time. He said, getting on the council is one of the most thankless things you can ever do. And he said, it's 50-50. 50 will love you, 50 will hate you. But I think times have changed. I think it's more 90-10. I think 90 hate you, 10 love you. So I wanna win that. I want to win that 90%. And I think that's the reality. So you have to know what you're getting yourself into. So
Let's do this. This is, I know it, we have to take it a day at a time. We don't know what, is in our plan. Only God knows. But should you not get selected this evening, would you consider running in the next spring?
And we spoke about this
Mhm.
today. And Tom mentioned it a minute ago. I think what kind of gets lost in all of this, we're not promised tomorrow. So I guess my general answer would be anything's possible, right? I think there's parts of this process that have been encouraging. I think there's parts that have been discouraging. And I think that you kind of have to take the good with the bad, but I can't promise I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I can't promise there was a friend of mine that said one time he was at work and he got in a fight with his wife and he goes, well, I'll talk to her about it when I get home. I'm like, how do you know you're going home? You don't know. And I think that that's important. So to say that I will or won't, I hope I'm around to do so. So yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members for giving us all the opportunity to come speak with you tonight. Just a little bit of my background where I grew up. I grew up in a small town about the size of Smithville in Rosenberg when I was a young kid, and it's grown now, but we had a family farm of 67 acres out in Neatville. And so I grew up raising cattle with my dad, fixing fence, hauling hay, a lot of things that's you still see done around this area. Went to work with my grandfather was working at a full service gas station back when there was still full service gas stations at 14, and working 60 hours a week while still going to school, and then went on and graduated and attended Texas A&M and graduated in '83 with a BBA degree. Went on, became a stockbroker outside of New York, and then I did 30 years of public service with the state of Texas. I had a whole list of things that I did during those times to impress y'all and show y'all what potentially I could help with on the council, but rather kind of shift a little bit and say the main reason I had put my name in the hat is that I have a older daughter in her 30s that lives here in Smithville, and she's lived here for 5 years, and I don't want her to leave. She's actually kind of thinking about that, because the younger generation, as several of the people have talked about, don't have as many things to do, or things are closing up. So that's what I'm looking for the city council to really focus on, making decisions for that next generation coming up, so we don't lose any of our kids who would like to go ahead and stay here and have the opportunities that we have had ourselves. After listening to everyone speak and everything, I'm going to go ahead and second Monica and withdraw my name and throw my support behind Mitchell. I've had several conversations with many of the people, and I actually do think with him running that he would have the best opportunity right now to achieve what the reason why I put my name in. So I thank y'all for my consideration, but I'm going to throw all my support behind Mitchell.
Well, I appreciate you putting your name in the hat. It encourages other people to follow suit. And the only way we're going to find out what the town wants is by people getting involved and being involved. So thank you for taking your time out and putting your name in the hat. And I hope to see your name on the ballot when it comes up next time, because it's very important that we get involved and we be heard. And we're not always going to agree, but we need to learn to listen, communicate, and try to make this town what we know it can be, the greatest little town in Texas. So thank you very much. Casey? Start calling. Micah Honey, come on down. Your wife needs a tissue over there.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, council, and council members, and the city manager, I'm sorry. Start off, I want to wish y'all the best in this decision tonight. I know it's not always straightforward. Everybody thinks, their decisions or their feelings are pretty much, this is the way it should be, but y'all know it's all different. There's a lot of different sides to it. You have to look at all the sides and come to that decision. And it's not easy. In regards to the open council position, I think it's awesome that these people put their names out, put themselves out there. And I appreciate that. And I know in my heart that all they want is best for Smithfield going forward. And I do appreciate that. That said, I am here for Derek. So I don't know. I don't want to surprise anybody with 07 Ramona. We were living there at the time. He's been here his whole, it's not as he said, it's not a prerequisite. We've got great council members that weren't born here. That's not the point. Point is, he does have that uniqueness. He does have that quality not quality, but the uniqueness that he was here. He's grown up here and he decided to move back here. Thank God I got some grandchildren in town. So it's awesome. And I really appreciate that. So it's that's one of his benefits. He's represents the family of Smithfield, just like Garrett does, basically the young people that have families. It's not something, Tyrone's pretty close. He's got some children there. Just had a recent graduate, but as it is, it's basically representing the young people of Smithfield and having a voice on the council. He talked about the golf cart thing. He basically has been real eager to serve the community. He gets out there, he organizes it with a couple of friends. It has really grown. He's helped individuals in the community. He's helped organizations in the community through people that have made generous donations and through his time. In addition, he basically works with each of those businesses. I think there's like 15 or so, 30 total that we go to in that day. And I know y'all read the recommendations. A lot of them were from the businesses that basically said, hey, he's bringing people in here. They're buying things, and there's places that they may have never gone to before. He's volunteered in the community. He's coached kids sports. He stepped up at the Jamboree, took over for what I was doing. Thank God I didn't have to do that anymore. As far as that, he volunteered through LCRA Step Forward Day to trim at the cemetery, trim bushes at the cemetery, paint facilities, and work at the Smithfield Community Garden. I believe he has and will continue the tradition of volunteerism that I believe this community is famous for. He promotes Smithfield. He talks about like he's in his 40s, like that's old. I can tell you it's not old. I'm old. So, but basically he does go out there on social media. If you read his posts, he goes out there, something I wouldn't even think about doing. He promotes Smithfield. My wife shows it to me. And at the end of the day, I think he'll do that when he gets on the council. In the end, I recommend my son to the council. If you appoint him to the council, you'll have a very energetic, thoughtful, and caring councilman that will do his best to represent all citizens of Smithfield. I just want to thank you.
Your
for the
time's up.
opportunity. That's what I was right. Okay.
Yeah, well-
3:05. I'm doing good. Thank y'all very much.
Next. Where's Nancy at? Oh, there you are. Sorry, can't see you in that bright yellow. Speak into the mic
Most
and
of you
state your
know-
name.
Usually I don't need a mic, but my name is Nancy Catherine. I live at 1003 Nichols Street in Smithville. I am not a native, but I have lived here at that address since 1971. So go ahead and figure. Yes, it's 50 plus years. Many of which I have sat in this room watching former mayors and city councils. In the beginning, watching them and reporting on them. Later, I got hooked on watching and being at city council meetings. I've seen Mike perform, and he's a great councilman. Joanna was a great councilwoman. I see a lot of experience in our city manager and in Councilman Bruno, as far as experience sitting on the council, and on Councilman Etheridge, and in our mayor. But not an abundance of experience in the job you're sitting in right now. That's one thing that's very, very important to me. Whether I'm electing someone in a voting booth or I'm endorsing someone. I think we are in a unique position. I don't remember, Mike might remember if we've ever had to appoint anyone before. One time. Okay, thank you. I knew you would know. I would hate for us to become a city that kind of ignores some of our basic tenets of democracy and say, okay, let's look at who ran and who lost, and let's pick one of the losers. Because I really, really like the voting system. I do. I do. And while I'm at this point, and I do have a tendency to ramble on, so signal me. In all my 50 years or 50 plus years in Smithville, I don't think I've ever seen this many candidates for anything. My one disappointment is that more of the candidates that have come forward this evening did not sign up and vote for and run for election of office. So I could know more about them than I learned this evening. Is it time? Okay, then what I would like to do is recommend to you that you go with experience. And that would be with the councilwoman that just sat down, but said she'd serve the 1-year term. She doesn't have an agenda to run again. And that would be Joanna Morgan. Thank you.
Well, I'm Jonathan Taylor. I live at 403 Walker here in Smithville, and I planned on being Switzerland today. Thank you, Monica, for ruining that. Definitely threw that off. I was going to stand here and say that I stand for sensible governance, and you have really two good candidates to choose from that both are different. There's enough difference between them that you should go with that. You know, we have 47% of the vote. People who went out, I've heard them speak. I mean, I've seen them at Fat Cat. I was able to question them myself. I know where they stand, and I like that. And the last thing I want to do is stand up here and use this time to like quote the founding fathers or anything like that. But Thomas Jefferson once said, and because he had a way with words and French people, that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed. And we are able to figure out the consent of the governed in this country through public elections. And it's really cool that they both got nearly 50% of the vote, and then Monica dropped out. The other thing that threw me off was that shirt. I really liked it. All right, that's a nice shirt. We have to get together later. I was sitting there trying to prepare, and that's a beautiful shirt, Mark. So sorry. My point is that we have the consent of the governed. People have said, hey, I'm going to give nearly half of the votes to Mitch. And I wasn't planning on standing up here for a candidate, but I guess I am now. Thank you, Monica, for nailing me down on that, because I love Derek. I mean, I just absolutely think we have awesome candidates here, people that want to be, chosen. But then we have those that actually ran, that answered the questions, that met with the citizens, and that are a known quantity, people that half of voters voted for. So it feels to me like it's already been chosen for you. Just saying. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I look for you to be on the ballot one day.
Good evening, council. My name is Pace Davis and I live at 707 Bishop. Again, Monica has made this a little bit easier tonight, so thank you, Monica. But I came here to represent the opinion of myself and my partner. We are a little divided, so I'm going to try to do both. I think that currently we have two people now that would be great representatives for Smithville. First, Joanna Morgan has served the city very well for 12 years. We know she has experience. She's been elected and chosen by voters. But we also have Mitch Jamerson, and he ran a great campaign. He was narrowly beat. He's been vetted by the community. He's answered hard questions. And this is where we both differed. And so I would simply like to ask you to decide between the two of them. The other people running tonight are being asked to be chosen. Were not vetted by us as voters. I think they all sound like wonderful people. I'd like to get to know them better, and I'd like them to run in the next election so that maybe I can choose to vote for one of them. But the difference between Mitch and Joanna to me is experience. You as council members know the situation that the city is in. Do we need 12 years of experience, or is the city safe enough, sound enough, and in good enough shape to choose someone who has experience in other areas, but could learn to serve the city well for the future? So I simply recommend you choose between the both of them. Thank you.
Next would be Miss Jenny Bush.
Hi, Jenny. Where are you? There you are, in the corner. Did you and Nancy get together and both decide to wear yellow, or just ray of sunshine?
That's it.
Okay, come on down.
This is going to work out great. This weekend, my name is Jenny Bush. I'm 204th Avenue, Queen of the Hill. This weekend, I pulled an angel card for myself, and it says humor. If you use humor as your driving power on your life path, your energy will be set on turbo. Humor is the power of the heart. Have fun with the game of life, play fairly. So I'm gonna do a little stand-up comic act for you tonight. I think I was right at 3 minutes at the start of this. All right, I'm going, with all the political craziness going on these days, I'm going to try to lighten the mood by telling a couple jokes. Just the other day, I tried to tell a joke to a politician. He looked at me and said, "Sorry, I don't understand jokes unless they have a hidden agenda." Let's take tonight's get together. I mean, this makes a congressional debate look like a chaotic game of Twister. It's like watching a toddler trying to conduct a symphony. You know it's going to end well, but it sure is going to drag out and you can't look away. I moved from Austin to Smithville 18 years ago. Life is so different here. In Smithville, instead of a transit system, they have folks riding around on golf carts, waving at each other. It's like living in a real life sitcom. Now, the seniors in Smithville are a different breed. They're not interested in the woke agenda or social media drama. They have more important things to do, like sitting on porches, drinking tea, asking how their pecan trees did this year. They're like a living time capsule, and they're much happier for it. Folks, they're your neighbors. Talk to them and see what I mean. They're the leaders of our community. Now, they say the grass is always greener on the other side, but in Smithville, the grass is just grass. And it keeps growing in this rain. We don't have time for that kind of philosophical nonsense. We're too busy enjoying simple pleasures in Smithville, like gossiping and drinking and eating and gossiping. Now in Smithville, the public school kids have bigger dreams than their city counterparts. They hope for a future where they don't have to count on their fingers to do math and can actually find a job that doesn't involve mowing lawns or hauling hay. There's no way they want to live at home with mom or dad. It's too much work. Now, safety is a top priority in Smithville. You can leave your doors unlocked, your car keys in the ignition, and your dignity at the door. We don't have crime. We have neighbors who will judge you if you don't mow your lawn on time or you leave your dog out in the cold. Now to close, you can see how we are different. We start appreciating the simple pleasures like our friendly neighbors, our city council and city employees, and that you can call by their first name, right? Now let's remember all this good stuff and stop listening to the otherworldly stuff. Work with what we have and it will work for us.
Are you about finished?
I have one line. I reckon we should vote for Mitch. He's ready and he works and he'll work for us.
I'm Ted Levue and I live at 204 Walker Street. The essential element of a city council position is that it is an elected position. Elections are the purest expression of our democracy. In a democracy, we hold that while we strive for the best possible governance, we'd rather risk having a poor government that we have chosen for ourselves than a well-run government that someone else chooses for us. Democracies may not ensure quality, but they do support freedom. And as Americans and Smithvillians, we have deemed freedom as more important. Appointments should also, as much as possible, be made with this in mind. If we have good indicators that show us that the majority of Smithville voters prefer one appointee candidate over another, that appointee should be chosen for better or for worse. If we don't do this, then we move in the direction of cronyism, and we essentially would be saying that we personally should decide what is best for the town instead of the voters. Besides being patronizing, that would be violating the very essence of our democracy. When council member Cassie Barrientos decided to resign, she was asked to wait till after the elections so that the council could see how close the elections were. The idea was that if the elections were close, we would have a good indicator that a large number of voters wanted a candidate to represent them. It was an excellent idea that immediately registered to me as the wisest and most democratic way to decide. Both races were close. So Mitch Jameson was put at the top of the list since he got the most votes, then Monica Poss. Any other appointed candidates went to the bottom of the list because there was no way of determining how many Smithville citizens would have voted for them. The only way of determining would be by jockeying and scrambling of emails and calls to city representatives to get their appointees chosen. And that, my friends, is not an election. It's more like an American Idol episode. So up to a few days ago, I was all about supporting the appointment of Mitch Jameson. Whether I personally would prefer Mitch to be appointed is not or not has nothing to do with it. The election showed that more people gave Mitch a vote than Monica. So in the spirit of what the town wants, not what I or anyone else personally wants, I thought Mitch should get the appointment. But then Joanna Morgan put her name in the hat and that changed everything. Here's a person who has run for city council 4 times, once unopposed, and as mayor once, and has won every single time. There's nothing more that needs to be said. Joanna, if she's willing to accept the position, should get it. It doesn't matter why she decided not to run again. It doesn't matter that she was appointed to some of the positions. It doesn't matter whether you or I think that she would make a good council member. All that matters is that the voters have voted her into office every single time she has run. None of the other candidates can claim this. No one else even comes close. So let the majority of Smithville voters be heard and appoint Joanna Morgan as council member. If she doesn't want it, give it to Mitch. If Mitch doesn't want it, well, you can't give it to Monica, but you can give it to the next, then you can decide. So thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Was that? Okay. Okay, so now we went to there and then we will retire. We will go to an executive session into a closed meeting. We'll be right back.
Citizens, again, there are some restrooms that we can get you to for a bio break. Otherwise, it's the PD or
All right, people, come on. If you're gonna have a seat, come on, we're fixing to. Bill, can you not find a seat? I feel like we're doing that dance where the music ends and then everybody gotta find a seat. All right, close enough. At this time, I will close the closed session and go back into open session. Discussion and action on appointed to place for unexpired term as a result of the closed executive meeting. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for stepping up, putting your name in the hat and showing people that people are interested in coming out. Have your voices heard. I am impressed. I will tell you that in the years I've been up here, usually one person, and it's one lonely little person that they appoint. So I appreciate all of you. I hope to see your names on the ballots next year. And I appreciate it. And at this time, council, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we elect Mitch Jameson to place number 4
Appoint.
for the unexpired term.
Appoint.
Appoint Mitch Jameson for the unexpired term.
And Tom seconded. All in favor? Mitch Jameson, come on down. You get to sit by me. That card? Really? Like a pregnancy test or something. Huh? Who is that? I'm like, what? It's okay.
Point. Oh, now you have to administer the oath.
Oh, I do. Thank you. All right, Mitch, you gotta stand. You get to stand here in front of me and I get to make fun of you. We're gonna roast you. Oh. I state your name.
I, Mitchell Jameson,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or a thing of value, or promise any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever this case may be, so help me God. That's what it says. I do.
I do.
You have been elected, appointed to the City of Smithfield Council Member Place 4. And the other part is, raise your hand back up there. Don't fall off that little edge. In the name of the authority of the state of Texas, I
Mitchell Jameson,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the City of Smithfield Council Member Place 4 of the state of Texas and will best of my abilities preserve, protect, defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state, so help me God. Thank you. Okay, you have to come over here and sign. You want to just hand me something? Congratulations. Yeah. You get to sit by me, that's the most special. Paper, rock, scissors, you get stuck by me next time. Thank you. Now at this time, we'll entertain a motion, discussion, and action on the election of the mayor pro tem.
Madam Mayor, I make a recommendation that we select Tom Etheridge as mayor pro tem.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have, a motion has been made in second, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it would be motion approved. Motion approved, Tom Etheridge will be the mayor pro tem. Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion on wastewater expansion study update from Bevco engineer. I believe Chad is coming on down.
Evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Chad Amel of Bevco Engineering. I'll give you guys a little update on the sanitary sewer study. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to block some of y'all's view.
That's fine.
Everybody else can see this. I think you can see it really well.
We're going to put it on the screen too.
So that's a very busy map. It has a lot of information on it. It's actually designed to be on a much larger format than what we had corkboard and availability. It shows floodplain, city limits, water CCN, sewer CCN, parcels. What else? Also has all of the city's wastewater infrastructure labeled, as well as lift stations, wastewater treatment plants. And then lastly, kind of the component that was overlaid onto this is kind of the red hatch. To the rest of you, might look a little rusty from the audience. But that is what we've been discussions with Robert and city staff elected to kind of incorporate into the study as what might be the future of development for the city of Smithville. Obviously, there's a lot of assumptions built into that, right? But you have to start somewhere. And that's kind of what the plan was here. Ultimately, the goal of the study is multifaceted. One, it's an evaluation of the system as it stands. And when I say system, I'm really talking about specifically the wastewater treatment plant and maybe a couple of lift stations, as they are your critical infrastructure and generally speaking, the most expensive of your infrastructure when it comes to sewer. So it's a matter of evaluating the condition of those and having an assessment what their lifespan may or may not be at this point. A number of factors, whether it makes sense to have two. Does it make sense to only end up with one? There's a litany of things. Additionally, it's a matter of understanding what the city might need in the future when it comes to transmission lines, right? To get these development areas and allow for development to occur, and having an understanding such that then the city council can look at funding mechanisms, or at least planning for funding mechanisms to enhance the infrastructure over the coming years. So that's kind of an overview of what the sewer study is for. There's a lot of intricate parts to it. They overlap kind of tentacles, root system, if you will. So I'll kind of go through, there's a little memorandum that we put together that's really kind of based on and formatted by the proposal or the contract that we have with the city. So task one was collecting existing system information. As you can see, we have a lot of that put together. It was collecting information on the wastewater treatment plants as far as historical data. We went all the way back to 2019, and we have data monthly moving forward from that point. And that's for both lift stations, both wastewater treatment plants. that allows us to get an idea of what the growth is occurring in the system. So that gives us a starting point, if you will, a leap off compared to the permitted capacity of 500,000 gallons per plant. We had completed prior to this contract a evaluation of what the average daily flow or an LUE being living unit equivalent, aka a home. What is a home in Smithville doing in sewer discharge on a daily basis? And that's an involved number in and of itself, with an evaluation of the flow that's coming into the treatment plant, a fairly tight understanding of how many connections or homes, if you will, are in the city. At the same time, you've got commercial entities that are more than one home, right? So there's a lot of variables built into that as well. We tried to get it as close as we can, yet be conservative, but not overly conservative, because overly conservative can end up oversizing your infrastructure more than you'll need to be. So it's a fine-tuned assessment to the best of our abilities, right? The other thing that comes into play is what we call a peaking factor, and TCEQ says that's 4, okay, as a general jump off point. So when you have, basically what that is when it's not raining outside, right? It's 3 o'clock in the morning, okay? Flows are obviously going to be way down in your sewer system. So your infrastructure like that have your pumps and your lift stations, they're not really working that hard, right? But it's the opposite. It's 7 o'clock in the evening, everybody's taking a shower, everybody's washing their clothes, and it's raining outside. Now you have all this sewer running down your lines and you have to size your infrastructure appropriately. So we look at the wastewater treatment plant, we look at the lift stations, how are they handling the flows that are out there today? We can try to estimate what kind of I&I, which is basically your water intrusion when it does rain. We try to estimate kind of what is that peaking factor. At first blush, we're thinking it's maybe closer to 3 than 4. So that's an added benefit to the city. That's something that we will be refining and taking a closer look at. We're still trying to bring in some more hard data. So let's see, the next thing that we did is we got with the city. We got with the city staff and had them look at the sewer system that's in place today. Obviously, there's aged infrastructure here already. What needs to be worked on? Right. So we had city staff we had Jack work with us before he retired to identify some areas, and we put that on a map that will be part of the ultimate report. So that gives the, again, planning mechanism is what this all ends up being. So it gives city council and city staff a way to estimate what that might cost and how to plan for that moving forward in the future. So as I mentioned, it's not a quick study. One of the biggest steps is we partnered with LAN, which is another engineering firm, a national firm, to evaluate the wastewater treatment plants. That's not necessarily in BEFCO's wheelhouse. It's a complicated deal, to be honest. There's a lot of things that change over the years. If you've been around long enough, you may have heard of lagoon systems, right? It's much akin to a septic system than it is to the mechanical plants of today. So that the systems change, technology changes, things get easier, things get more difficult. The requirements through TCEQ, the discharge requirements become more strict, and all those things have to be accounted for, both with what you have, the equipment that's there, the future permits that you might have, as well as the future requirements that have come out of TCEQ. So when those expansions do occur, you kind of have to know where your plant is situated today so that you know what it's going to cost to get to the future, right? So as part of that, we just, I think it was last week, we finally were able to get there's some equipment that the city will be renting that'll be placed right in front of both wastewater treatment plants and at one of the lift stations in town for us to get a better idea of 2 things. One, what that flow looks like on a daily basis, when it peaks, how big is the peak? What is the actual flow? Does it agree with what the outfall of the wastewater treatment plants are? All those things will be looked at. Additionally, it's what type of sewage do you have? Okay, that makes a difference, right? You've heard of gray water versus black water. Okay, how strong is the sewage will depend on how the best way to treat the sewage is. So again, that goes back into what the wastewater treatment plant may or may not need as far as the processes that could be evaluated and used to make them more efficient. It's possible, for instance, that it's found that the sewage isn't as strong as TCEQ makes us assume out the gate. And that, in fact, we could actually increase the volume of your plant. In other words, the amount of sewage that we can put through it by not touching it at all. And it's just a matter of how strong is the sewer? Is it weaker than what we thought? Flip side of that, right? It's stronger than we thought. Your plants actually can't handle 500,000 gallons per day. So there's, these are just part of the evaluation. So that equipment, hopefully, we don't have a good schedule as of yet from the supplier. It's evidently the equipment that we are trying to use is currently not available, but hopefully it'll become available in the coming weeks. So that's going to be a 2-week assessment that those will be recording information. I think it's every 15 minutes on the flow rate. And I think they're going to take daily samples as far as the strength of the sewage. So once that information is taken in, what LAN has already done is they've come out and actually did a site visit at each wastewater treatment plant, took notes, tried to look at what the deficiencies may be, and have a good understanding of what's there, so that once they know what kind of sewage they're dealing with and flow rate, then we can, make a potential investment into the plant, or possibly say, you know what, Gasly's been around a long time, guys. It's not in great shape. And, planning needs to be put in place to either replace it, repair it, abandon it. Who knows, right? That's all part of what we're going to try to dive into here. So that's the wastewater treatment plants and LAN's part in it. The other component that BEFCO will be looking at is back to kind of your rust colored looks, right? We've at this point, we've established what we believe a house in Smithville does on a given day. We can look at what state trends, or we look at Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Bryan College Station. We look at those entities to give us guidance beyond what our own experience has told us as far as how dense could the development be, right, for those future areas. And that's a tough task, right? You could have a commercial entity come in, for instance, restaurants use a lot of water, okay, a lot of water compared to, say, someone that just has a storage building, right? Who knows what those developments could end up being. So it's a large assumption on our part, but at this point, we're looking at probably 4 connections per acre. So that rust areas that you do see on the map, the acreage is multiplied by 4, and that's our approximation of how many additional connections could come from each one of those areas. From there, we'll take that, and what TCEQ kind of assumes is, and not only TCEQ, but kind of nationwide, the idea has been, whether it's correct anymore or not, is basically 2.5 persons per household. Okay, so we attribute 2.5 people to each one of those connections. At the same time, we will evaluate growth rate trends for both region, Smithville, the state of Texas, as we all know, is very high. And as of preliminary numbers, which came out of the Texas Water Development Board, you're looking at in excess of 30% growth year over year. Okay, so we take those, and now we know where our base point is with the lift stations and our wastewater treatment plants. We know what we think is going to come connection wise, and we know what the growth rate is. Now we can start putting the puzzle piece together. Where do we need to put the infrastructure in? How long is the current wastewater treatment plants going to last? Where does it make sense to expand those treatment plants moving forward? Those are the kind of the culmination, the final steps as things come together. And that'll be a discussion between LAN, BEFCO Engineering, and the city staff to evaluate different things. For instance, does it make sense to take all of the Gasly's wastewater treatment plant flow and take it all the way over to Willow, right? That sounds expensive. It is. But bear in mind that a 500,000 gallon wastewater treatment plant in today's numbers is basically $14 a gallon to build, right? $17 million. Okay, I can build a lot of underground line for $17 million. And effectively, you may be out of room there. So that's going to be one of the things specifically that we look at and trying to figure out if it makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But that could also domino into where our infrastructure goes, right? Our collection system, our new collection system.
questions during the middle, or do you want us to wait to the end? There's a lot of information piling up here and I got a lot of
Yes,
notes
it
here and
is.
I'm afraid that if we wait to the end, it's going to be a barrage on you. I'd rather do a little as we go. First of all, you made reference to CCN. Is part of the scope to derive any sort of projections or recommendations for how the timeline looks to service our existing CCN?
Timeline wise of growth, yes. Can I say it's going to be specific to an area? No.
The reason that that's important to me, and I think should be to the council, is we've had discussions about annexation and the limitations that cities can't, the limited powers that cities have to annex. You can't do it. Owners have to voluntarily annex. And so the one potential incentive that cities have is services in exchange for agreeing to be annexed. But when you have a CCN that's a broad area outside your city limits, you have, as I understand it, a contractual obligation to provide those services in order to protect that CCN. So to me, it's important to understand, is our CCN too big today? And that it's not realistic for us to expect to be able to economically serve it in any foreseeable number of decades? I'm just trying to understand what the scope of your study is going to address with regards to the appropriate size of the CCN, how long it would take to service it, because according to the city manager and resources that he's tapped into, we are obligated to provide services to that area.
Obligated, yes, is what I understand as well. And I get forced into playing an attorney way too often in my career, so I won't confirm nor deny whether or not that's an actual requirement. However, what I can say is that development naturally occurs where infrastructure is available. So if there's not a line 3 miles out of town, there's not going to be a development asking the city to annex them, right? So growth naturally occurs radially out from the city, right? So in essence, it will solve its own development growth based on the infrastructure that you provide. Having said that, water is where a city makes its money, not sewage. So if there were to be an expansion of the CCN, I would say it'd be your water. However, you're looking at, our study is we're going to go out to about 30 years, okay, is what we plan to. All the area in red will not have been developed by then.
Okay.
To
Well,
put it-
I don't
put it
want
that
to
way.
take too much. I just wanted to know, what role this analysis of our CCN had to do with your scope. The second question I have is the age of our plant today versus what a normal useful life is. Can you help us understand what that is?
Loaded question. Good question. Generally speaking, and maybe I would probably default to LAN had they be standing beside me. I would say 50 to 75 years, 75 would be pushing it.
Okay, so the closer you get to that, the less economical it is to renovate the existing versus build a new.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And a lot of it will be on the assessment of
Yeah.
the physical nature of the plant.
Next question is you talked about what I think was reference to 4 units per acre, which is your assumption when you're trying to project usage, and then you reference 30% annual growth. Is that 30% growth in wastewater growth, demand for wastewater, or growth in population, growth in household?
Growth in population. So
So
we reference, we'll take the population, divide it, the projection of the population, okay, divide it by the 2.5 persons per household assumption.
Right.
That gets us back to the connection number. And that connection will then build in mathematically, if you will, for the sizing of the other infrastructure.
And so you're going to use a 30% year over year growth rate.
That's the initial, that's what the Texas Water Development Board has published out there. It's 30, I think it's 31% for the next, I think it was 5 years, and then it went up to 32 and then back down to 31 over the next, I think it was 50-year span. That's what they had shown.
Annual. Well, yeah, okay. Well,
I know,
Okay.
it was shocking to me as well, if I'm.
well,
perfectly
I mean,
honest.
we all know
What-
the
what
rule of
study did
seven.
that come
If
from?
you
I'm
have
sorry.
if you have a 10% annual return or change, you're going to double every 7 years. So if it's 30%,
Well, and
it's
maybe I should correct
doubling
myself
in-
in that.
in
I think
2
it
years.
was, they had it listed at 2025, 2030. So building up over that 5-year span, I think I had it in 5 or 10-year spans. I'd have to look back at my own information because I'm still working on it. I know it was 30% in the increments that they had. So I may have misspoke in saying year over year and rather over. a
Yeah,
5-year term.
I would be shocked. It's not, I can't imagine a 30% year over year. I can imagine a 30% over a 10 or a
And I
15
will
or
s-
20-year period,
Sure.
which would be about 2% per year, 1.5, which would be more like I would expect for population.
And I will say that when we did a similar project to this for the city of Bastrop, they had a third-party firm that specialized in projecting growth as part of the water study that they had done previously. And I think that boiled down, and mind you, this was in 2017. I think they ended up with, if you looked at it annual, it was 2.65. So, but you'll be amazed at, if I'm honest, that growth is still very large, right? And the expense of the infrastructure. may
Percent a
shock you.
year, year over year, we will not be able to afford to build the sewer plants required to keep up with that.
Right.
May I address the city manager?
Yes.
For my edification, having been on that side of the dais before, can you just go ahead and explain the concept of CCN? Because
Certainly, CCN is a certificate of convenience and necessity, territory, if you will. There's electrical CCN, there's water CCN and sewer CCN. What you're seeing here on this map, the green is the sewer CCN, which was established back in what was 1986? It was initially laid down. The water CCN, something similar. The thing here is that obtaining, giving up, or getting more CCN is very difficult. You have to get permission of every landowner, because that's another thing I'm looking into. Do we want to reduce the size of the sewer CCN or increase the size of the water? Well, in that Aqua Water owns most everything here, they're not going to give up their CCN. So our ability to expand the water CCN is not going to be there. Yeah.
That's your only option with, let's pick on kind of the centerpiece that has I can't tell the acreage from here, so nobody else can either, but there's a center acreage right there. And if you're over a certain acreage as a property owner, you can actually opt out of anyone's CCN. At which point you could say, hey, I'm opting out of Aqua CCN, City of Smithville, I'd love to be part of you guys. Right. So that's the one caveat, but you're right. Once those CCNs are kind of set in place, they're kind of, I wouldn't say concrete, but they're there.
say basically that if we don't build it, they won't come.
That's true to a certain extent, yes.
And for Robert, okay. Are we showing growth near the high school, down by the high school? Is that showing me on the map? I'm a little confused.
The high school is further down, but
Be-
I think.
because
we've
I know we have-
effectively- It's yeah, you can scroll a little bit further down.
little bit?
Effectively, we wrapped on the lower side. It was agreed upon with city staff to assume the city limit says the developable area or developing.
Okay,
area.
okay. So,
Yeah, more than likely, the growth is going to happen eastward and it will impact Willows. Willows is a 350,000 gallon per day capacity. Gasly is 500,000. So we have more capacity at Gasly currently than we do at Willows, but the growth is going toward Willows at this time. But the good news is that we have the land and the space to put a second plant at the Willows property, thanks to Mr. Hill. So that's where we're probably going to expand once this study is done.
CCN is the dark.
That's green. Yeah, the green is a CCN. Oh,
CCN is.
the water CCN is blue, the sewer CCN is green.
Correct.
Yes, sewer.
Sewer CCN.
The green is.
And it doesn't necessarily, as you can notice, it doesn't necessarily follow a property line.
It's a bit.
At one point, it appears as though it probably was a thought of a certain radius off of the city limit line. That's what it appears to be,
So we're just.
or
beginning
ETJ even.
the process. Go ahead, Jimmy. Councilman. Finger. They don't, that one don't stay on.
Does that work? Yeah. Okay, how expandable is the Willow sewage plant? Are we gonna have to build out beside it, or is it expandable on its own?
You're going to be able to build right beside it because there's an agreement that we have with Mr. Hill. We have the ability to put another plant of similar or bigger size at that location.
I was just under the impression that Willow, from what I was told by somebody else that used to be in, that it was expandable, you had to put a second one, but it was expandable, built to be expandable on its own.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
If you were to give an idea where you are percent wise in the completion of this project, what would you say? I know it, but they don't.
Yeah. I would go up to maybe 20 to 30%. The problem becomes that it's an overlap such that we need all the information to come in and all that evaluation to occur so that then that's when things will start moving quicker.
The bigger question is, when is it going to be done?
That one I was more ready for, actually. So I would say, first we had to get the equipment in that I spoke about, the rental equipment. From there, I would say somewhere between 60 and 90 days after the completion of that information.
60 to 90 days.
And another big consideration, how we're going to pay for it. How we're going to pay for a new wastewater plant. We're working on that. Have some ideas.
Any other questions or? Any other questions?
Kind of keep up with it. They're just starting to pile up. There's a lot of information here, so
And
I
it
appreciate it.
is, it is, and it's, like I said, it's an overlapping situation, so. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Oh.
Is he done? Oh, okay. Well, okay. I
Well,
thought I
spot
was
on, yeah,
interrupting.
yeah.
Well, before you leave, one other question. Have you discovered anything that wasn't expected based on what you've researched today? Is there anything that surprised you?
Not yet. Not yet. I honestly believe a big part of what we will discuss is the big picture of where to take the sewer. And whether or not Gasly is the right place to continue to take it. That's a question that we have. Leaning on it may not be the right place. So what do we do if it's not? And that's going to impact largely what happens north of the river as far as your major infrastructure goes. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Planning and zoning, where's? Hello, Mr. Weeby. Come on down. We will hear recommendations from planning and zoning on the following two things. Two items.
Good evening, council, city manager. Welcome the newest members. I note that your first topic for discussion involves sewer lines. I hope the rest of it goes a little better than that. The last Planning and Zoning Commission, we heard two matters. The first one is on a change in zoning class from Community Facility District CF to Single Family District SF1 for 406 Burn Street. Burn Addition, Block 106, lots 1 and 2, property owner Charles T. Etheridge and Debbie Etheridge. What this is involved is a change of the zoning. Previously on this piece of property were two double or single wide, I think double wide mobile homes that were in very poor condition. The owners removed that and I believe have sold the property subsequently to someone who wants to build a single family residence there. If you're familiar with the area, that's generally in what is there. There's some single family homes and other structures there, so it does fit the general area. There was no one who spoke on the matter in support or in opposition. And Bill always asked me what the vote was. And the vote, I believe, was unanimous to recommend the city council to change in the zoning from community facilities to SF1.
Okay.
I'll take it back, Bill. It was 3-1. There was one in opposition to the change. No, I take that back. I can't read my notes tonight.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
Um,
please do.
Mr. Rewe is correct. Debbie and I bought these lots. Our daughter lives on Burn. I pick up my grandkids over there and I got tired of seeing these dilapidated double wide mobile homes that had been falling apart. So we found the owners, out of town owners. We bought it solely to have them removed and then resold. We did sell it. We have for a while now not owned them. We sold the lots to Daniel and Ryan Fowler, who are a young couple, live outside of town and have told us that they plan to build their house on those 2 lots. I'm going to abstain from the vote simply because I was involved in the transaction. I don't think it's required, but for abundance of caution, I'm going to do that. But we do not own them. We sold them actually before it went, but our name's on it because we paid the $675 to the city to go through the process and have the zoning change. And actually, Robert can speak to this. He and Jack may have thought that this should have been picked up some time ago. And for whatever reason, it was never picked up as SF1 because it was obviously being used for residential, which is not permitted under the community facilities.
So got that corrected. Next item.
Next item is a rear yard setback variance and a fence height variance for 1034 Wilkes Circle, Colorado Heights, Block 1, Lot 5, property owner Jimmy Davis, agent Sylvia Davis. What this involved was a request for 2 variances. In your package, you do have some diagrams about the proposed construction. This is a conforming size lot, but it's a fairly shallow lot. And what the homeowner wants to do is to build a covered porch area at the rear of the house. The setback for construction of the main building is 20 feet from the rear property line. That's about all there is in this backyard. So what they're asking for is a reduction for the setback from 20 feet to 10 feet to allow the construction of a covered porch. And again, there are some diagrams in your packet that show that. We took these, since there were 2 variance requests, we took these separately. The vote on each one was 3-1 to recommend it. So the first, the one on the setback was recommended to the city council to approve. There's no questions on that. I'll go to the second variance request. The second variance request was on height of the fence. Like I said, these are fairly shallow lots here, and so the homeowner was concerned about maintaining or creating some privacy in the backyard, was requesting a height variance to have a slightly taller, from a 6 foot to an 8 foot privacy type fence in order to provide them the kind of privacy and enjoyment of their property. Again, no one spoke for or against this, and it was passed 3-1 to recommend to city council the granting of the height variance on the fence from 6 to 8 feet.
Anybody have any questions? Everybody good? For the third, we only have 2 on. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Were there any citizen comments from the neighbors for either one?
We're good? Okay, I'm gonna close the, close the open meeting and go back into the public hearing. Public hearing call to order. Tracy, did anybody sign up to speak about A, B, or C? 18C? And, well, it didn't go to planning and zoning. It didn't go to planning and zoning. It's only on the public hearing. Do you want to call them down? Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me give some clarification. On a order for condemnation, you have to have a public hearing, and that's why you find that in this particular section. After my code enforcement officer, Lisa Pierce, will give a little briefing, then we can have the citizens comment to this particular action item. So Lisa, would you please come up? Nope,
No,
you're in the public hearing.
I went back into the public hearing and then And that's the reason why there's three of them.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here to present to you, I assume you have pictures before you? Okay. This building apparently had a fire in it in the 80s, from what I understand. It was purchased in 2010 by the now owner, Miss Sanchez. The building has no plumbing, no electrical, has no floor on the first floor. It's a dirt floor. It is tin and 2x4s. Some of them are damaged by fire. To bring it to code would probably be cost prohibitive to the owner. And it is more than 50% damaged. My recommendation is an order to demolish in 60 days. It's a hazard. It's dangerous. The second floor is unstable. It wobbles when you walk on it. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, but that's my recommendation. 60 days to demolish.
I have a question. Okay, in cases like this, where you're making a recommendation, what portion of your analysis is objective data and what is subjective? Do we have a consistent objective? More than 50%, I think, is one of them, but that involves a subjective determination. How did you arrive at it? I mean, what part of it is subjective and what part of it's objective?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Okay, so when you go and look at a property that you think might be in need of being demolished,
Okay.
how much of your decision is based on just what you kind of feel and see versus some sort of mathematical or objective data about
Okay,
percentages?
none of it
testing,
is based on mathematical.
or testing or anything like that. It's just
No,
all subjective.
No, it's all, you know, I go into a building, one, it's not secure, it doesn't have windows. The front door, you can see the front facade is, it
Yeah, so-
literally
so-
fell off.
So those would be, in my view, those would be objective criteria. There's
Yeah.
no windows, there's no door, there's no floor, there's no electrical, there's no plumbing. You know, those are objective criteria. So my question then is, when we do this, do we consistently apply it, that sort of criteria, every time we go and look at a
Yes.
situation? like
Yes,
Okay, That was
absolutely.
the only purpose of my
Okay,
question.
yeah.
Thank you.
One more question, please. Process wise, this came via a complaint, correct?
Correct.
So going forward is we're waiting for people to complain, or you're going out systematically looking at?
No, I am systematically looking at, I have sent out several notices to property owners, letting them know that I will be considering these properties for demolition. This one came in as a complaint, and it is a dangerous building. It's a hazard. Kids could go in there, they could be hurt. There's a lot of tin. The stairways, the stair steps are not to code. I tried to walk up. They're shorter than my feet, and I'm size 8.5. So I had to go up the steps sideways. So it would, it's just unsafe. Somebody's going to get hurt.
Comment? Sir? Come on. Will you introduce yourself and thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Laredo. I'm here to represent my mother. I'm the owner of the property. Basically, I bought the property and I put it under my mother's name. When I bought the property, there was words on what it is right now. And I make the property stable. It's stable. It's been like that since I bought it. So that property, they don't go nowhere. They don't go nowhere. But I would like to have consideration from the city council to give me an opportunity to fix it and make it more stable. If the code enforcement officer decide to get a demolition in 2 months, I can make it stable and security in less than 30 days or at the most 2 months. And everything that will be engineered structurally and stamped by a Texas engineer. I do understand what she described, that she sent a couple of notices. We don't receive no notices. As soon as what I received, it was a text message from a citizen of Smithfield describing that I had a violation on my property. Immediately, I contacted this office and I spoke to the code enforcement officer, and I told them that I was just planning to come by and do some work on my property if that was possible. They said, no, you cannot do any work on your property. That's better for you to attend to this meeting. And I told them that's basically illegal what you're telling me, but I want to follow your process. I'm going to follow your process.
So is
that
your
building-
address not correct?
Pardon me?
So the address that's listed here is not correct?
She
I would-
described it to me and that's correct. That's correct, but we don't receive nothing in the mail.
Okay.
I'm going to show you, prove to you what I received from someone.
Oh, no,
and,
that's fine. I would think your address would be what's on the tax roll because you would be getting a tax receipt. So what address? And I would think
And the
that
main thing is, what is weird to me, and I
is,
explained to her, this is what I received in the text message. By the same time they reported to your office, they reported to the Bastrop County Tax Appraisal and they raised my taxes right on them. So if the property is not worthy, how come the tax appraisal raised the taxes? And the city of Smithfield, they want me to demolish if it is not a worth of property. So from the day Smithfield code enforcement officer ordered for my property to get demolished, but they reported to the Bastrop County Tax Appraisal to raise my taxes. Before that, I received 2 phone calls. There was a person that wanted to buy it so bad. And I said, no, there's no for sale. We're going to keep it. And then the report, they submitted to the code enforcement officer and they submitted to the tax appraisal. And plus, the bust the door open to get into my property without permission. I understand there's a city of Smithfield code enforcement officer, but it was supposed to ask permission. If that was wide open for public to get in, it's understandable. It's a one violation to enter without a permission to a private property, even though it's a law enforcement. I would like for the city council to have a consideration, all of this, and all those proceedings, and give me an opportunity to prove that I can fix it, I can clean it, and make it look representable.
stay right there. I think
Sure.
we've asked some questions. for
So
you.
city manager, what would be the normal process if we had a situation where someone wanted to attempt to correct a violation within the time period that the code enforcement officer claims to be wanting to issue the demo, 60-day versus 30?
Let me just back up a little bit. There was registered letters sent out to the owner of record from BCAD, correct? Lisa? There were, okay. Yeah,
I sent out and it was sent out certified. I have yet to receive a green card back.
yeah. So the address of record is either incorrect or it never got to the property owner. Okay. To answer your question, Councilmember Etheridge, given the code in and of itself, if is 50% more of decay or damage, you do demolish, but that time frame, it's up to you guys to decide how you want to handle this, whether you allow Arturo to rebuild or do you demolish? And the door was open because I also, when this came up, I walked by. So the whole facade was in front where the door is, had been pulled back.
Yes, sir.
And I've always been concerned of your cantilever deck. And it had been burned. But anyway, that aside, the process was followed to notify the property owner and to set in course a motion, an action to either have it demolished or repaired. And in the code enforcement officer's opinion, repairing was not an option. Is that correct?
The thing, just to be clear, whether or not and to what extent the Bastrop County Appraisal District decides to raise or lower people's taxes doesn't have anything to do with the city of Smithville. So just want to be clear, unless I misunderstand that process, people's taxes go up when they disagree with that quite frequently, I can assure you. But I don't think anything that we did as a city has anything to do with that. And I wouldn't also look to what the appraisal district did with valuation is to be indicative of whether the building needed to be demolished or not.
Yes, we did not send anything to the Bastrop County Appraisal District on this topic.
City manager, I'm sorry, I don't have the ordinance with me on this one. I'm not familiar with. Is there an appeals process in place? Because we're going to be setting some precedents.
There is an appeals process, correct? It's,
Sir, were you aware of the appeals process?
No, sir.
That's. This is the process at which he can be granted an appeal or notify you that he wants to appeal. So this is where it's his turn to ask that, or
I just want to make sure that we've educated you on what your options are, because I don't want us to be the big bad monster here. I'm really glad that we've got this process in place and that Lisa's on board. And there are some things that have to be addressed, but we certainly want to make sure that we establish the process and that you're educated on what your options are.
Well, if you make a decision to grant our decision, basically to grant her decision, they want to be demolished, absolutely, I want to file an appeal. Because I want to fix it. I want to fix it, definitely.
let me interject here, section 3.03004, appeals authority of building officials in cases of emergency. The owner, agent, or person in control shall have the right, except in cases of an emergency, to appeal from the decision of the building official. So you have the right to appeal that. There's no time frame listed.
What does it say? Does he
It
have to do
doesn't
it in
say.
writing?
Yeah, because it sounds to me like he's appealing it right now. Now, whether or not that's the proper procedure.
Yes,
May I make a motion
to,
to postpone this consideration? Till we get some more information,
Tracy.
not
can we-
tabling them, postponing.
Tracy, can we postpone? And get more information?
It's not tabled, it's postponed.
Yeah, well, it's a motion. They don't need a second and a vote, but let me ask a question first, council member. Jameson, what kind of specific information do we want?
I need to understand the appeals process, the time frame that he's got, and more about what his plans are. Now, I'm not well prepared for this, and that's why I'm asking for more time, but certainly I will.
Well, I
Go with
want
the
to,
vote.
one of the things that I think has been abundantly clear, citizens are really concerned about code enforcement. We hired a code enforcement officer. I want to make sure that, that we support, the proper application of our codes and ordinances. It sounds like there is an appeals process. Absent a requirement for it to be in writing, then I would consider what he's doing here tonight to be an appeal. Absent a requirement that it be in writing, because he basically said he wants to appeal.
I
That's
mean,
what
normally
tri-
legal proceedings, there's 30
Yeah.
days to follow. the
So
appeal,
to me,
but,
he's appealing this right now. And so the question would be, do we want to postpone action on that appeal until the next meeting? So he has an opportunity to submit to us a little bit more information in writing, so we actually know the basis on which you're appealing. Would you be willing to accept that?
Basically, my appeal is going to be based on your decision. If you
Well,
decide.
you're, no, but
sign,
so can he not appeal the recommendation of the a code, you're appealing her recommendation, right?
You don't want to demolish.
Because you
it.
I
can't.
don't want demolished.
you-
I don't
you-
want
So you're
demolished. you know.
saying,
You can't appeal a decision that hasn't been made yet. So you're either appealing her recommendation or you're not doing anything until we decide.
Right.
So which
exactly.
is it?
Yes, exactly, sir.
Which is
When,
it?
when you decide, you make your decision, but I still got 30 days of your decision to appeal it on the legal proceedings. You know,
Is
whatever your decision
is that
decide to
true,
make,
Lisa?
you know, your decision, if you have to go to court for judge to make a judgment.
I felt confident in this due to section 3.03.005 standards for ordering, repair, vacation, or demolition. If the substandard building or structure can be reasonably repaired so that it will no longer be in a condition which is in violation of the terms of this article, it shall be ordered repaired. 2, if the substandard building or structure is in such condition as to make it dangerous to the health, safety, morals, or general welfare of its occupants or to the public, it shall be ordered vacated. 3, in any case where a substandard building or structure is 50% damaged, decayed, or in a state of dilapidation due to lack of maintenance, it shall be demolished. And in all cases where a building cannot be repaired so that its existence will no longer be in violation of the terms of this article, it shall be demolished, removed, and the lot cleaned. The city shall have the power to demolish and remove said building structures at the expense of the owner of the property of the premises and assess expenses on the land which it stood.
When is the last time you saw this property?
I was here the last time that I received a phone call, I believe from the previous code enforcement, that I had a violation. I said, give me 1 week to go fix it. And I drive by and we fix it. But on this particular situation, when I received a text message with the violation, I told her I can go down there in 2 weeks.
So
and
when
start
was,
working on it.
when was the last time you saw this property?
Maybe about a year.
It went downhill this far in a year?
Well, the thing is, the people you have next door is coming from prison. Vandalize my property. I mean, so many times.
But we have I'm gonna share, we have a motion on the table that needs to be, it either needs to get a second or not get a second. But would you indulge me to make a comment before you ask for a second?
Janice wants to talk to, and yeah, I've got a response because may I go ahead and say what I was going to say? Because I think I
Absolutely.
might
No,
know
we
where
don't
you're
need to
going.
say.
Yeah, no,
yes,
go
ahead.
State it.
I am totally behind the enforcement and the pro enforcement and the issues of the timing or the notification and who said what and when. You know, I want us to have an ironclad process. So when we go forward, we're going to be consistent and we're not going to get caught in a situation like this. So that's all I'm asking for. I've got no problem and I'm leaning towards, I think I can say this, I'm leaning towards approving this, but I do want to make sure that we know that going forward, we're not going to run into any hiccups.
I'd like to see, I mean, you said it's been a year that you saw the property, and if in fact you were to appeal it, would you be prepared to say exactly what it is you're going to do with that property, how you're going to fix it? Give us some, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, that's really what I want to know. I mean, I know buildings can be fixed, but do we give them a time frame? Do we have them come back and say, this is my plan, before we just tear it down?
Mayor, I think there's an appeal process already in place. You can't appeal something until it's decided. So there's an appeal process that gives this gentleman enough time to come back and present us with evidence. I'm inclined, we have an ordinance in place, and best I can tell in my judgment, code enforcement officer is qualified to be a code enforcement officer, has proved to me based on her statements that it meets the qualifications to be voted on for demolition, but there is an appeal process, and that I think we should vote on the demolition. I'm going to support it. But I think you need to know you have an appeal process. You need to come back, and if you refute anything that's been presented, you need to provide us with that information and that we can act on that appeal. Is that inconsistent, city manager, with what the appeals process provides?
It is not.
Because an appeals process wouldn't be an appeals process if we could make the decision and it'd be torn down before you had a chance, a reasonable amount of time to appeal.
Go ahead.
May I withdraw my motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're through the motion.
I need to vote on whether it's be demolished.
We need to ask for another motion. Yeah.
I need to ask, okay, Tom? Janice?
And I really think I need more information. I know we got a code in place, but, okay, so let's say I make the motion, yeah, we're gonna demolish. Then how much time does he have to come back and say, I'm gonna appeal?
Mayor, can I make a motion?
Yes.
Not, with all due respect, I'm going to make this motion, Councilmember Bruno. I move that we approve the demolition as recommended by the code enforcement officer, but that we provide the full extent of the ordinance, the applicant's opportunity to appeal. With that appeal, I would ask that you provide us with tangible information
Yes.
about what you disagree with and proof thereof.
I'll second that.
Tracy, did you get that? Okay. You have his motion. We have a second. So all in favor of the motion? It's approved. The code enforcement will get you the information that you need, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Or was that where? I was in the public.
Do we get to hear the appeal when he comes back? Will he come
No,
back?
I think he would have to, no,
No.
we wouldn't hear the appeal.
Can I make a comment for the record? I think that city managers just informed me there's not a specified time limit for the appeal.
Yeah, so we're going to follow the 60 days of demolition. Between now and the 60 days, if you come in and with a structural engineer say it can be repaired, that will be sufficient to stop the demolition. That's what you need to do on,
We're still in the we shouldn't even be, yes, I've got ahead of myself. We're still in the public hearing. Yes, you are correct. We should not have voted. Sorry, I jumped ahead trying to answer your question. So at this point, do we have any more questions for this young man?
any more comments?
You're good. You're right. We are still in the public hearing.
A comment.
Go
Is
ahead.
the property condemned straight
Good-
out at
good
this
catch.
point? Have you condemned it so it does not have a certificate of occupancy? It's the way it stands, it can't, but I want to know if the city has done that.
There is no certificate of occupancy on the building as it stands.
You know, she has put a condemned sign on it, so it should be able to move forward with what we're doing.
But we're still, anybody have another question for this young man? Okay, so we're gonna,
Would be, is 60 days sufficient amount of time? Would you agree that that's a sufficient amount of time for you to appeal?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Basically, there's a legal proceedings and I'm agree with that.
okay, we'll go back into the meeting
Thank you.
and then, okay. Oh. Come on down.
My voice, I apologize in advance here.
Will you
but I'm-
state your name and your
Yes,
address,
I'm
please?
Ty Jones, 307 Third Avenue, Smithville. We are the property owners next door, Serenity Star and Comfort Cafe.
Will you
And,
speak into the,
okay. We are the property owners next door at Serenity Star, which also owns Comfort Cafe. We are strictly concerned with the safety of our staff, our employees, our residents, as well as the customers that come into Comfort Cafe every weekend to our restaurant. As the code enforcement officer had stated, it is in complete disrepair. It is a hazard. It is a danger, not only in the front of the building, but also in the back where we share a fence. We also would like that area cleaned up. It has large trees that continue to fall onto our patio. Luckily, we have not had any injuries lately. To this point. And I think we're fortunate on that. There has been, I think the owner has done some aesthetic upkeep one time several years ago, but nothing structural that I can tell. And have never, hardly have ever seen the owner of the property there on that property. I am concerned on the timing of this. We're looking for a solution. I hope you guys can come to a solution quickly, whether he appeals or not. But this has been going on for years and years and years. And we hope to find a solution. I hope you guys can come to one.
I want to add here, because I want to make sure we get this right, to Councilmember Jameson's point about a process. You made some comment in your statement about it was your property and then you put it in your mother's name. I think it's really critical that whoever files the appeal has to be the owner of record, not just somebody who claims that they did. We need whoever it is that is the legal owner of the property. They're the only ones that have the legal right to speak on behalf of the ownership. So I don't know what that is, but I'm just making sure when you do go through the appeal process, if it's not in your name, if you're not the legal owner, then I think you need to get a letter of agency or some sort of recommendation, something that proves authority to speak on behalf of the owner, because we can't take action on an appeal from someone that isn't the owner of the property or isn't the owner's agent. So just FYI.
We'll make sure that she's kind of following. Basically, I'll be able to follow.
Question, and I'm sorry, you may have to come back up to the podium. Can't do that. What? I'm just saying we're not gonna be able to hear his response. If you successfully appeal, what are your plans for the property? And you don't have to answer that. I'm just asking.
My
you.
plans
Yes, sir.
is to fix the property, keep it stable and save it for my sons. I got 3 sons. And since I bought it, I grounded for them. And that's the reason I want to fix it. I mean, I live in Austin and I'm from Austin, but I want this property for my kids. And that's the reason I want to keep it as it is, fix it and let them have it.
How's it currently zoned?
Commercial.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
It has been zoned in commercial. It is commercial property. And just wanting for them to decide what they want to do with it. Thanks.
Okay.
I'd like to say one last thing for the record. We don't care whether he sells it or keeps it. We're just concerned about the safety, whether he is able to fix it, get it secure, get it structurally sound, that's fine. Whether it's condemned and demolished, that's fine too. As long as there's a solution that makes it no longer a danger to the community, Serenity Star, or Comfort Cafe and their customers.
The comments.
Oh, hurry, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, in reference and why he said they want to keep it safe for the community, I know the door is wide open right now. What I can do, maybe tomorrow, the next day, I can come and block the doors and there way nobody got access to get into the property. And I'll follow the motion for.
Is that? I think you need to make it safe that people are not going in there, because the pictures, I have not been in there and I've not seen it, but the pictures look like it is a hazard. So if you would do what you can until we can come to an agreement, which the enforcement officer is doing a great job and she has brought it to our light, and we will
I
go
might-
forward from here. But
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
will you please secure it?
I'll be able to do it tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Oop. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna close the public hearing, go back into the open meeting. So next item on the agenda is a change in zoning class from Community Facility District to Single Family District for 406 Burn Street, R16760, Burn Addition, Block 106, Lots 1 and 2. Property owner Charles T. Etheridge Jr., Tom and Debbie Etheridge. Okay. We've heard everything. Do y'all have any other questions? Okay, we're down on number 20. 20A. And I entertain a motion.
And with the caveat that Councilmember Etheridge and Debbie Etheridge are not the owners
Mr. Ryan is, Fowler.
and that Councilmember Etheridge will be abstaining.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve a change in zoning class from Community Facility District CF to Single Family District SF1 for the 406 Burn Street, R16760 Burn Addition, Block 106, lots 1 and 2. Property owners Charles T. Etheridge, Tom and Debbie Etheridge.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? Please let the record show that Councilman Etheridge abstained,
Abstain.
and it passed. It's approved. I did, he seconded it, and then they all voted. Yeah. Okay. All in favor? All right, sorry, I thought you raised your hand. What? Okay. Approved. Okay. A rear setback variance and fence height variance for 1034 Wilkes Circle, R17140, Colorado Heights, Block 1, Lot 5, property owner Jimmy Davis, agent Sylvia Davis. Council member, do you have any questions? If no, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move we approve the rear yard setback variance and fence height variance for 1034 Wilkes Circle, R17140, Colorado Heights, Block 1, Lot 5, property owner Jimmy Davis, agent Sylvia Davis. The variances will not be contrary to public interest. There are special conditions affecting the property. Because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. The spirit of the ordinance will be observed and substantial justice is done.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? 1, 2, approved. Now to number C. On a substandard building violation located at Northwest First Street, property, Smithville property ID 19838. This is where you need to make the motion.
Mayor, you want a motion?
I'm ready.
Mayor, I move we take the recommendation of the code enforcement officer on the substandard building violation located at Northwest First Street, Smithville property ID 19838, and that the agent and or owner has available to him all of his rights for appeal.
I have a motion and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. A motion passes. Approved. Number 21, discussion and, nobody sorry. All 5 agreed. He made the motion, Janice second, and all 5 in favor. Number 21, discussion and action on the annual audit, the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget. Is the gentleman still, there you are. We got a real nice one.
I'm happy to be here, I think. Can you hear me? Is this thing working?
You have to get a little closer to it, sir. There you
Now?
go. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm Jack Clark. I'm with the firm Singleton and Clark. And I'm here to present the audit. I was going to go into a lot of detail, but it's late. So unless you want to take a quiz, new guys have to take a quiz after the city council meeting. But I'll try to make this quick so that we can get to the end of it. The audit report, the first page that's important is on page 1, which is the opinion letter. The city has received an unmodified opinion. So that means that we found nothing wrong that we can really pick on you about. And Jack's not here anymore, so I can't pick on Jack.
Okay, introduce Edward.
Yeah, we've met. The other what I do for the newbies is I just go to various pages in the report, call your attention to certain numbers, and then promise you that if you have, there's no way you can go through this tonight. But if you have questions and you want me to come back, I'll be more than happy to come back and answer your questions, either in a public meeting or individually. If you go to page, I like to call attention to page 19. This is the GASB report. This report, the only time you see this is when I present the audit. This converts the governmental accounting into basically financial accounting, showing all assets and liabilities. But on page 19, what you see is a list of all the revenue accounts in the last two columns, three columns. You see all the revenue accounts and all the expenditure accounts. And you see what revenue is produced by the governmental entities. And over on the very last column, halfway down, you see that you basically open your door on day one with a negative $3,355,000. So the question becomes, how do you make that up? And below that is a list of the various revenues that you have sources from. That mainly 52% of your revenue is from property taxes, then sales taxes, and then some other smaller numbers. But it ends up being that you basically, with all the expenses minus all the revenue sources, you end up with a positive $173,000, which increases your net assets to $16,323,000. So from the financial statement, this is like a mom and pop store. It's not governmental. You have positive net assets. The next page I like to call your attention to is over on page 24. This is the general fund. This is the governmental fund. This is your operating fund. Everything you do basically runs through this fund with the exception of the utilities. What you have here is the total assets of the governmental funds. A total revenues, 6.5 million. You have $8 million in expenditures. So you have a negative operating loss of 2.1 million. So how does the city cover that? You cover that with operating transfers in. You're one of the fortunate cities that have a utility fund. And that utility fund is basically a financial fund, and it generates most of the revenues of the city. And you do an operating transfer out from the utility fund into the general fund. I have cautioned you, and you've heard, those of you who've been around, you've heard me caution you before, be very careful about becoming too reliant on balancing your budget with the general fund revenue. It's okay to do it, but you don't want, what happens if all your utilities go down, or the state nationalizes them, or statelizes them and takes them away from you. So just be aware of that as you go through your budgeting process. But what I have good news for you, and most of you know that I'm a big one. If you look over on page 27, this is the revenue expenditure reports in detail compared to budget. I have always tried to get cities to have at least a 3-month operating balance in your general fund balance. If you look at the very bottom of the page under the actual column, you see that you ended up with net income of $65,000. That a lot of people say, well, that's not very much money. But if you've been with me back in the early days when I first came here, that number, the fund balance was maybe around $200,000. You take the 65,000, you add it to the previous fund balance, and the city's fund balance is now 1.337 million. And I can tell you there was a time when that was about 15,000. So you've come a long way. I recommend that you always have 3 months operating money in your fund balance. Your 3 months is $1,491,000. You're within 2 to 3 percentage points of being at that 3 months operating. So I don't know if Cynthia does it by herself, but your accounting system, your reporting, your attention to the detail is vastly improved and much more stable as a city in my mind than it was back in the good old days when Vernon Richards and I had to play these games. Do you remember Vernon Richards? Okay. But you do have a strong and healthy fund balance. I don't think $100,000 difference is going to make me real upset with you, but keep your eyes out. You're talking about some major improvements, wastewater and so on and so forth. So you're a growing city. And love this city. I went running around the neighborhood and I can't tell you how nice it looks in this city. It's just getting hard to get here from Lampasas because of Austin and Bastrop. The only other, there's a few other things, for those of you who don't like to look at columns of numbers. If you look on page 37, that's the beginning of the footnotes. The footnotes tell you the financial health and operations of the city in words and not in columns of numbers. In there, you'll find various information on receivables on page 45. You also get a listing of your fixed assets. That's your hard assets, your buildings, land, so on and so forth. Those are on page 46 and 47 for the general fund and the utility fund. Beginning on page 48, if you really want to glaze your eyes over and go to sleep at night, read footnote E. It's about the pension plans. And it makes me crazy, and I've been doing this for a long time, but I have to compliment you. This city, what I'm really interested in when you talk about a pension plan is your unfunded liability. This is the amount of money that you're going to have to come up with to pay your current retirees and your future retirees. Your unfunded liability on page 51 is $1,605. Rob could write your check for that. So you're in pretty good shape on your pension plan. And that's a hard nut to crack for most cities. Talk to the city of Austin. You have something else called other post-employment benefits, liabilities. That's your health insurance, life insurance. When your retirees retire, you let them continue with that. And there is a liability to the city for that. And I believe that's about $270,000, $277,000 on page 54. On page 58 and 59, you get a listing of your long-term liabilities. Y'all did issue a bond or C of O, I guess. Is tax note C of O for $775,000 in 2022 and tax note. But what this is good for, when you're doing your budget, you have a 5-year payout listing all your liabilities for each year for 5 years. You can use that in budgeting your debt service requirements. On page 61, one thing we had to do this year is GASB 87, where we had to, it used to be we only had to account for your financing leases. When you lease a piece of equipment and you finance it through a lease, we had to report it, but now in the GASB 87, all of your leases are reported. And you came in compliance with GASB 87 in this fiscal year. So you are in compliance with all GASB's, Governmental Accounting Standards Board. I'm not going to spend a lot over on page 84. You've got something called special revenue funds, debt service funds, capital project funds. On 84 and 85, you see a listing of all your special revenue funds, railroad park fund, police seized asset fund, et cetera, et cetera. This lists all of your revenues and all your assets in those funds. The last thing I want to call your attention to is this is an and it's on page 107. In addition, you should have in your audit file this letter. It's just slipped into it. And it's the letter from our firm to y'all stating various components of the audit report. But what we found this year was a technical violation of the Texas bidding laws. Under Texas law, you're required to bid any construction or any purchase over $50,000. And there was 3 instances where this did not happen. I have talked to Cynthia and I've talked to Rob about it. I think that it's a very difficult thing for him to reach. Take primarily your concrete and your infrastructure stuff. You have various projects, sidewalks, 50 feet of sidewalk here, 50 feet there, and you add all those things up to the one vendor and it's over 50. So you're supposed to bid it. Well, Rob and I talked about it. How the heck do you bid that? You don't know what sidewalks will come up, how many feet of curbing you're going to have. So what he's looking at, and I agree with this approach, is to try to get a bid based on linear feet of curbing. How much will you charge me for a foot of curbing? How much will you charge me for sidewalk? Get those kinds of things and then try to evaluate a bid based on that. And then it doesn't make any difference if you have a culvert over here and a sidewalk over there. But I think that I personally think there's no way you could comply with this law based on the types of projects you do. You can't go out and bid every two, and Jack was right about this. You can't bid every $2,000 sidewalk because by the time you advertise it, publish it, it costs more to do that almost than it does to do the sidewalk. So he's working on that. And I think there's going to be a solution to that problem. But that's the only thing that we found that really required any kind of comment. I believe that's really about it. Cynthia, Robert, they all do great jobs. I don't know about this new guy. I'm keeping my eye on him. I told him Jack was my picky and he has taken Jack's place. So now he gets picked on. And so
He has big shoulders.
I'm trying to decide if, well, he is sort of bigger than me too. But this is a great, great city. I've been doing this for a long time and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the efforts that are made by your accounting department, your utility department, and the employees of this city to keep y'all running the way you ought to. I don't usually say that to some of my governmental auditors, but y'all are sort of special. So anyway, I do appreciate the opportunity to be here, even though it's going to be there can't be that much traffic in Austin now, can there? Yeah, you should drive fast and ignore them. I appreciate it. As I said, the new guys wait around to give you your quiz and you have to have a passing grade. But if you do have questions or need any, you can call me directly, no charge for that. And if you do want me to come back, I'll be more than happy to come back to this city. If I know y'all don't have any questions, do you? Yeah, you call me tomorrow with all kinds of questions, but I do appreciate it. No, not a problem.
Thank you. Weren't you supposed to be here last time? I was thinking we had to reset you. Okay, no worries. Oh, Lord. Okay, so we're on item number 21, discussion on action on the annual audit for 2021-2022 fiscal year budget. The guy that can answer questions left, but does anybody have
A
a question
motion?
for it? Yes, I do.
Move, we accept the audit as presented, Mayor.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor? All 5 approved. Good job, Cynthia. Next item, discussion and action on a resolution amending rates of the city park rentals and updating the city master fee schedule.
Okay, Mayor and Council, this, I included the entire fee schedule, which is probably overkill, but wanted to be, transparent so people could at least see all the fees that we do charge. But all this we're asking for now is to include the new covered pavilion at the railroad park, which was constructed under a $20,000 Union Pacific grant. We're still trying to finalize that. We're about 95% complete with the construction. We wanted to establish these fees so that people who wanted to rent that particular facility could do so. So on the board behind me, and I can hand you a copy, is a very condensed version of what we're asking. There's a residential rate and a commercial rate. Pass that down. In addition, we also kind of try to simplify the rentals. It's full day, half day, and that's reflected in this chart as well. So where it says new, that's what we're asking for new rates. So to include this new pavilion at the Railroad Park, which looks very good, by the way, onto our fee schedule. Questions?
What department does this fall under the purview?
Parks and Recs.
Parks and Recs.
So
Okay.
it's interesting. It's Parks in that that's who owns the facility. The rec center is the one who schedules it. And Ashley's working on a rental agreement for that because I understand there's interest to utilize that particular space for a farmer's market. But I can't turn the space over until it's finished and we insure it. So
There's great excitement, as y'all know, about this and maybe competition. That's why I'm wondering how y'all are going to handle what process you're going to have to scheduling it out, because there could be some major interest from certain groups that want to book it for a long time. So I'm curious as to whether you're ready for that or not.
They ready. Look at that. Look at those faces.
I'm afraid you're going to run into people wanting to do it longer than that. I mean, this is really exciting, and I'm just suggesting maybe that you're prepared for that, because there could be people that want to come in and say, well, I want it for the next 6 months. And another group says, well, I want to do arts and crafts and not fresh garden food. And why did you give it to the other group from 10 to 2 for 6 months? I'm just saying this is going to be really big, and I really appreciate the fact that we've got this in place because it's going to create excitement.
Anybody need to add something?
I liked seeing the reference to Elgin rates below. I'm always interested in testing through peer group and finding out where the market is. I do think philosophically, and I appreciate Robert's response to my email about, there was all these fees were in there. We're really only addressing a couple. As the city goes forward, particularly with expensive projects like infrastructure, we're going to have to make some tough choices about prioritizing things that we spend money on. And so when you talk about that, you imply that you have limited resources, which we obviously do. And that means you have to pick and choose what you're going to spend those limited resources on. And I think you also have an obligation to maximize the revenue, which is part of that equation, to the extent that it's supported or indicated by the market. So whenever the budget process comes through, y'all saw there's pages and pages and pages of things that we charge fees for. One of which you hear us talk a lot about, which is the 150% out of city limits utility rates. I think everything ought to be on the table when we go through this next budget process, and we ought to look really hard to do what we did when we looked at pay for city staff and all. Let's do a robust peer analysis. Let's make sure that we at least are aware and transparent about what we think the market should bear for these. We may choose to not charge that. That's okay. If we decide to make a concession because certain organizations locally we want to accommodate, that's fine. But let's be transparent about what we think the value of the city's assets are and what we can charge for them, because we may need that revenue.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve this resolution, which will establish the rental fees for the newly constructed covered pavilion at the Railroad Park.
I need a second.
Nay.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2. Passes unanimously. Number 23. Discussion and action on a resolution supporting the city of Smithfield's application to the Texas Department of Transportation 2023 Transportation Alternatives Set Aside TA for the projects. Tracy?
yeah, Okay, Councilman Mayor, this is an opportunity for us again to add to the number of sidewalks that we've already gotten grants for. Thank you, Jill, and et al. Who have worked on those grants. This is a 2023 TxDOT Transportation Alternative Sidewalk Program. We're going to link up sidewalks from Hardeman back to Eggleston. There's a diagram on the board behind me, and you should have it in front of you now. It's basically a grant with no match, and $714,394, including $472 and $152 for construction and engineering. There are some hidden fees that TxDOT charges, but the good news here is we're not going to pay any match whatsoever. Jill, you want to expand upon that?
Sure. So I just wanted to make it clear also on that diagram that you have, it's just those sidewalk sections that we're talking about for this particular grant. But what that does is it'll link up with the sidewalks we already have in place at Fourth Street, from Eagleston all the way up to State Highway 95, which goes right past Brown Primary. And there's also a spur on that length of sidewalk that goes out Washington that connects with the junior high and the high school campus. And then on the other side that comes up to MLK Park, that other spur that comes out, that's actually going to hook into the safe routes to school sidewalks that we have already had approved, has gone through engineering. We're just waiting on Union Pacific to come back and say what they want us to do at the railroad tracks. And we've been waiting a while, and I don't know how much longer we're going to have to wait, but I'm hopeful that we will be constructing this one at the same time, maybe as the other one. But that's that other one. Anyway, so it's not just sidewalks to nowhere. It's going to connect. And this is going to be a really important link to be able to make sure that everybody at the schools, the junior high, high school, Brown Primary, everybody in that neighborhood going to those schools can all connect up into the elementary school campus area as well. So it's a really important link.
Very nice. Any questions for Jill? I'll entertain a motion.
That we approve resolution 2023-05-509 as presented.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Approved. Discussion and action on the Texas Department of Agriculture Grant Award, CRC 220031, RFQ for engineering architect services. Take it away, Robert.
All right, Mayor and Council, we actually went out for bid on this RFQ to design and construct a innovation center. It's going to be at 400 Fawcett. That's the 2-story building that you heard about. And in addition, do some renovations to the Riverbend Park Pavilion. This was a $1 million grant that I got a personal call from Sid Miller. He said, Campbell, I got $1 million in my pocket for you. Hold on now. You got $1 million in your pocket for the city of Smithfield, not for me. But as we got that out of the way, it's good news. It's very good news. The thing here is that only one architectural engineering firm supplied a bid for the RFQ, and that was Cutright and Parada. And as such, it is a recommendation of the scoring team that you award this contract to Cutright and Parada. And as an FYI, that is an engineering architectural firm that is currently doing our city hall renovations to add ADA compliant restrooms. They also worked with us in the past to construct the expansion of the rec center under a GLO grant. So they're no strangers to Smithville. And as they were the only ones who submitted an RFQ, recommend that you award the contract to Cutright and Parada.
And they are doing a great job with our renovations here at the.
Yeah, I was just amazed that you just had the one company that applied.
That's a question I have is, I mean, this happens too often. Is it difficult to get a lot of bidders, or at least that's my impression? Is that, what's the process we use for advertising? Do we go to Austin and Houston, any of these, and people just don't want to come out here because it's not enough juice for the squeeze?
It's all of that. Now we have a list of people this gets sent to. It's also publicized in the Austin American Statesman and what used to be the Smithville Times Bastrop Advertiser. So there's opportunities for folks to bid on this, but I guess it just didn't pique anyone's interest.
The other question I have is, do they actually, who does the actual design, the aesthetics? Do they do that? Because this contract references construction management and oversight, but who actually draws the pretty pictures and says what the design of the building, what it's going to look like?
It'll be cut right and Prada, and they'll give you some examples to choose from.
Okay,
So-
so they're the soup to nuts. They're everything. They're the design team. They're the oversight, construction management oversight team, everything, project management.
Yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion. Or-
Real excited about this because this is for the new Smithville Workforce Training Center. So I will make a motion to, let's see, where am I at here?
You're number 24.
Yeah. Make a motion that we award number CRC 22-0031 to the consultant engineering firm Cutright and Prohoda Inc. To build the new Smithville Workforce Training Center building.
Mr. Jimmy?
I'll second the motion.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion is approved.
It's actually called a Skilled Trades Innovation Center. It's going to be used for incubator space.
Want to make a comment too. I know that this is the facility that's going to be constructed by the city on the city property on Fawcett. There's been discussion in the past. I've had some with Robert about, what and when will we have documentation between the city and Workforce Training Center covering responsibilities, a lease, or who covers operations, who covers insurance? When will we have documented agreement with Workforce Training Center covering this?
That is 30 to 45 days out. Trying to get some things to stabilize over there, and then, yes, sir, that's pending. We're going to renew the ones that we have, and of course include, what are the lease rates going to be for this facility? But I think we're a good 18 months out before it's completed. If you want the truth.
And else we need to think about, that'll be a city facility. So years down, we want to build it to where, it can be, if it had to be repurposed, we want to be thinking about that.
The point is, when we get this agreement, it's going to presumably specify the scope of the building. It's a build to suit, just like you would for any commercial project. We're building it with the primary intent to be for their use, cover some period of term, some responsibility for rent, OpEx, whatever that is. Robert will work all that out, but I just wondered when we would see that.
And that's the same story for the Riverbend Park Pavilion too. We're going to put some extensive upgrades in that facility to include HVAC, and the ability to us to rent that facility out going forward will be a substantial source of revenue for us.
Very nice. On to number 25, discussion and action on Texas Department of Agriculture Grant Award CRC 220031 RFP.
Oh, okay, Council and Mayor, this is one where we had no one submit any bid proposal to us. So having said that, we will have to rebid or request RFP another time. It's because no one responded.
Percent of our proposal.
Which one is this, Robert? We on 24 or 25? 20.
Number 25.
25. Okay,
25.
so what is the scope of this again?
Request for the proposal for the consulting, the innovation.
Yeah, it's innovation. Jill, you want to explain this out? It's Innovation Center Consultant that once you build it, they will come. It's how to run the thing, right?
Right,
Okay.
exactly. So it's
So it
basically,
has nothing to do with design or construction. We already did that. This
Right.
is who's going to give us recommendations on how to run thing and maximize its value.
right, they'll do best practices. They'll help us make sure that we stand something up so that it's
And we got no
successful from
budget.
the get-go.
What's the scope of the contract? What can they make? What will they be paid? Roughly, what do we have budgeted for it?
I want to say it's 50,000. I've got but it's as a request for proposal. I don't think we're giving them that
Right,
I
but
don't
we,
know if-
but.
Now it's public, I guess,
But
but
that's got to be one of the issues is if to incent someone to do it, it's got to be, I was just curious.
but we
Yeah.
didn't say that
But
that's what we were
But our expectations is roughly a $50,000 type of contract.
roughly.
In what period of time? Just
About
a
12
one
well,
time?
It would be we'd have the contract would be the intention of the contract would be 12 months. So at some, if they can do it in 3 months, if they can do it in 6 months, we would just have to.
So it's
once we got
it's a single
proposal-
assignment. with
Yes,
the
and
okay.
once we had a proposal, we'd know what they would do for how much, and then we'd negotiate to get to the price that we are awarded through the grant.
So it's being built for a specific purpose and then we're gonna hire a consultant to tell us how to do the purpose?
So the thing is, when you're looking at incubator type projects, there are some that do really well and there are some that fail. And so what we want to do is we want this consultant to tell us, so as soon as the building, you can open the door and you can turn on the lights and you have something going. We have done all the homework we need to with somebody who knows what we need to do. So they've done the best practice research. They've given us the recommendations on what kinds of things go towards making sure that these kinds of projects succeed, make sure that we avoid any pitfalls so that we don't fail out of the gate, you know, that we really do the right thing once we get in there. Because those of us who are in doing these projects, we know we don't know everything, right? So we want to make sure we bring in somebody who knows what we need to do and get their advice in it. And that's what the consultant would be helping us do so that we can be successful.
Okay, and there's no match on this?
There's a match on the grant. It's 100,000 for the $1 million coming in, but that's on total.
For which portion?
it's
I'm
the
getting lost
two-
into which.
So
I'm on
the,
24 and 25 have a collect aggregate match of 10% for the TDA grant. So the $1 million is $100,000 that's already been budgeted in this budget year.
yeah,
In the budget already
Yes,
in place. But I'm trying to understand. So, you know, we have this innovation center that we just talked about who we're going to hire to design it, who we're going to hire to oversee the construction. We talked about the timeline for when the city is going to document with the tenant, which is Workforce Training Center, for what the building will be used for, what they'll pay for it. And yet why is the city, since we're not the tenant, we're not the ones running the incubator business, this is Workforce Training Center. Why are we coming up with the money and the grant for the Workforce Training Center and they not doing that?
well, I guess because the TDA was contracting with the city initially and as a partner with the city. I don't
This
know that
is
I
a
know
really, this is
better.
really important for me to understand because, you know, the city has, you know, the Workforce Training Center, you know, I'm a huge fan,
So
a huge
it'll-
fan, and it is, let me finish. And it's expanding. It's expected to expand to be a regional facility, fortunately headquartered in Smithville, which is great for Smithville. But it is changing its board composition, its governance to reflect a regional and less influence from the city of Smithville and the citizens of Smithville that put $100,000 into this thing when it first started and is now contemplating facilitating the construction of a facility. And now are we sponsoring grants for them? Who's going to get the income? If there's any income from the incubator, I mean, we're funding the cost of this venture. And it's for the benefit of the Workforce Training Center, which is a separate entity.
Yeah, but it's for the benefit of the citizens, I would
well,
argue.
that's-
And
that-
the other
but
thing is,
no,
this is
no,
going to be a city of
that's not-
Smithville building.
But that's not necessarily true. You're talking about how the tenant is going to operate this building because we're presumably going to lease this facility to Workforce Training Center. Is that right or is that not right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's their building
Well,
to use.
it's the city's building. The city owns the building.
Of course, but it's
but-
subject to the use that we grant them in the lease.
Sure. Now, according to the grant, you're bound by the grant to lease it to the Workforce Training Center for 7 years. And then after the 7 years, it's your building. And if you continue to work for a
I
Workforce Training Center.
Jill, I understand all of that perfectly well.
talking about
I understand
what's
all of
going
that. I understand how you lease something and when the lease term is up, the building never reverts back. We own the building forever. We're leasing it. The end of 7 years, we could decide to release it to somebody else, release it to Workforce Training. I get all that. That's a real estate transaction. What I'm talking about is during that period of time, they're going to operate an incubator that is whose activities are going to be governed and organized and coordinated and run by the Workforce Training Center. Why is the city of Smithville funding the cost for the consultant to figure out how they're going to run the incubator?
The city isn't bearing those, city, the match that's coming from the city goes to the construction of the site. It's 10% across but the $50,000 is coming directly out of the grant for the consultant.
Who
So
got
there's
the
no-
grant?
Well, the city got the grant. It's TDA
Bingo.
grant.
That's my point. This wasn't a grant that Workforce Training Center went and got. This is a grant that the city of Smithville got and is giving to Workforce Training Center, right or wrong? Okay.
So what happens if we don't do this innovation $50,000 consultant come in and tell us how we do it? Can we spend that? Can we divert that money to maybe better HVAC or is this a part of the grant requirement?
Well, it's in the grant. I mean, okay, you can always go to the funder and say, we want to reorganize and ask for permission to be able to
I
change.
guess, was this a condition of the grant, of accepting the
At
grant?
this point,
Yeah,
that's why we would-
I'm not trying to jeopardize the value of this initiative. I'm not saying that getting the consultant is a great thing. I'm saying that if we are the city's relationship with the Workforce Training Center has for some time been as a venture capitalist. We were the ones that provided the seed money, the real estate, the $100,000, and we continue to share resources. Your resources are shared with Workforce Training Center. Janice's resources are shared. Robert and his staff work from time to time to help, and we all want to do that. But we need to make sure that the resources that are the citizens of Smithville, that there is a benefit to the citizens of Smithville. And I don't know if us funding a $50,000 expense for them to run an incubator, I just want to make sure we're transparent about what are we getting for that?
so, well, one thing is just to remind you that we did have a public hearing on the entire layout of what we had anticipated to write for the grant. And so that when we built the budget and that $50,000 consultant was in there, and we did have some feedback from the community and we had a public hearing. That's just so you remember that was all presented to the community. We had it at the public. I have it. I want to say we recorded it. So I think I can point you back to that meeting that we had. And just so that was all put out there as, like months ago, like, I don't even remember, like December, January or something.
The relationship between the city and the Workforce Training Center is very intertwined.
Yes.
And I'm not suggesting that is a bad thing.
Yeah,
I'm not
because for
suggesting.
economic development, workforce and economic development are so tied.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, who do you work for?
Well, I work for the city.
Okay, are you the chairman of the Workforce Training Center
Yeah,
Board? Okay.
yes.
So Janice, who do you work for? Do you work for Workforce Training Center part of the time? Okay. So you can see, I'm not questioning the appropriateness of any of that. I'm trying to demonstrate there is a real interrelationship between the city and some of its elected officials and Workforce Training Center, which is a good thing. But we need to be really clear when the city raises money, you're also raising millions and possibly tens of millions over time from other sources. And this is going to expand well beyond just being Smithville. This is going to be multi-county and regional. So what are all the other cities and all the other people, where are their investment into things like this that are going to benefit? Are we the ones, the citizens of Smithville, that are funding a lot of these things through both human resources as well as financial resources when the benefits are flowing, not
So-
just to us, but to a lot of other people?
So I can say, this isn't the only, this $1 million isn't the only grant that's been paying for the Workforce Training Center. We've also gotten an EDA, so Economic Development Agency. Agency EDA grant and the value of that grant coming into the city of Smithville and Bastrop County is over $4 million. And so that part is being funded too. And also that also funds for the other 3 counties. That's why we're in the other 2 counties. So is that particular one. And then we also have St. David's Foundation, that's given us $100,000 was the seed money that really began the whole thing a couple of years ago. And then we also had St. David's Foundation gave us $200,000 to help fund a mentor. What do you call them? What do you call them? They call them something different, but it's a mentor basic. Sorry. No, it's what Leah was doing with anyway, it's like connection to the students is the idea there. Case manager, thank you.
Okay.
And then they also paid for $100,000 to help upgrade the Brown primary area so that we can have an IT. So they're investing in our community
Okay.
as well.
I think he's following.
Mayor, I don't want to draw this out. I'm not in any way, I'm a huge proponent of Workforce Training Center. I just want the city manager to be thinking about ensuring that we have good, clear delineation of when citizens' money from Smithville is invested in the Workforce Training Center, that we keep a good track of that and that we have appropriate documentation for what we get in return for it. I just think this is a slippery slope that I already think that there's a lot of intertwined resources, and a lot of people want to know, okay, what's going on with workforce training? So I'll stop at that. I'm not trying to be critical. This raised the issue. It made me think, we're paying for a consultant to figure out how they can maximize the use of the incubator, and they're the ones that are running the incubator,
Not us.
not us.
How
And
many
it should
hours a
be
week do
them.
you think you work at the training workforce over there? How many hours do you put in over there?
I don't go there at all. What I've been doing is I've been doing assistance on, I work from my office here. I go for meetings. a lot of those are over lunchtime hours. So, I don't work stationed out of there. You put me on the spot. I really can't tell you how many hours I work.
That's
offhand.
not my point. My point isn't that. My point was only to illustrate that the city has appropriately allocated financial and human resources to ensure or help with the success of workforce training, because we think it's a really good thing. I just want to make sure that we're continually being transparent when we decide to raise money on the part of the citizens of Smithville and invest in that we have some sort of discussion about what are we getting for that, or what's the benefit on that investment. That's all. And Robert understands exactly what I'm talking about, because we've had many conversations about this, and I apologize for making this long and beleaguering this. I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's good.
Mayor,
Peter.
I want to add on to real quick, because in my comments earlier tonight, one of the things that I talked about that I heard overwhelmingly during the campaign process was about transparency, accountability, and reporting. And I didn't understand what just happened in terms of who does what and what money's being spent where and how is the city benefiting from it. So that's one of the things that I want to make sure that I do. So it's not about people or personalities. The questions that I'll be asking will be more about like, okay, why and how, just so I can understand it.
And that's important. And those are lots of questions that a lot of people have is what, I don't know, can you, no, not. You have to do it at a later time. You can ask him afterwards, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to, where are we? Okay, we're number 25.
Motion, since you don't have it, do you need a motion to go back and rebid it? Or do you
It
not?
just says discussion and action, then
Because you didn't get any bidders.
it just linger on.
Do you want?
Given the conversation, this motion fails because we had no one apply. So it's kind of a moot point, but your comments and conversations going forward as to whether we rebid it or not is something I'll work with Jill on. Fair
So-
enough? Okay.
So what do you need?
No action.
No action.
Make a motion.
Yeah,
Okay, we're gonna make a motion.
I move, Mayor, that we take no action since there were no bidders.
Okay, so there's gonna be no action. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, no action. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Approved for no action. Cynthia, I know people don't tell you this all the time, but I'm sure glad to see you. Come on down.
Can we ask the city manager just 1 month in the year to put Cynthia at the beginning so she doesn't have to wait till the very end?
You should miss this,
Y'all know it's the end when I get here.
the grand finale. Cut right is the one that's doing the number 24. No, these are number 24. Okay,
Just bring it back tomorrow, Mitch.
right here, it's the cities, but it's, and this is number 24 that we discussed at the agricultural grant on this one, on this item. Okay, okay, Cynthia, take it away.
All right, y'all have in your packets the April financial report. As you can see, overall, the revenues are at the 9.1 million of our $14 million budget. Currently, our revenues are exceeding expenditures. General fund definitely looks good. You can see that the revenues exceed
by the 754. If you look at the utility fund, we're still a little bit behind on that one. Hopefully, a lot of our expenditures have been done up front, a lot of our note payments and stuff done. And with the hotter months coming, we should hopefully collect a little more in revenue to turn that around. I don't know if y'all have any questions about the report. Comment?
I appreciate the response to the email. There was something going on with the utilities, where the variance of the revenue on the electric was really the one that stuck out because it was like over $300,000 on a run rate basis. And I know that there's seasonality. I told Robert, I
Yes.
suspected what you were going to say is that in the spring, the temperatures are mild and we don't have the use. That's kind of the disadvantage of a straight line budgeting is it doesn't take into account seasonality. So are you confident? I didn't look back at prior years to see if that kind of happens. Are you confident we'll catch up on that?
I believe so. I mean,
It
it's gonna
warrants
get-
watching. We're only, what,
we got
6,
May,
7
some
months,
months,
7,
5
7,
months.
12. So, it better get hot. It better get hot.
Well, and we've had a lot of our expenditures and stuff up front. So, some of our bigger stuff. So hopefully just, with,
Because you had, when you took them all, what I did was, as you know, I just did a straight run rate, 112. And then I looked at where the budget should be based on where the budget said we should be, and then compared it with where we actually were for electric, water, and wastewater for both expenses and revenues. And in several categories, we were negative on both. We were over in expenses and under in revenue. The overall net at the end of the day was $430,000. So it's not an insignificant amount of aggregate dollars. But I understand there's probably seasonality there. It just warrants next month. We ought to look really close to see when it starts to get hot. Are we eating into
Yeah.
that deficit so
Yeah.
we don't end up behind the 8 ball?
Hey, Robert, were we able to buy the bleachers for the rec center?
Sorry, what's the question?
Do we get the bleachers for the rec center?
Yeah, they're on their way.
Okay.
Mayor, can I make a motion?
You can.
Move that we accept the financials as presented.
Motion made in second. 1, 2, did you? All in favor? Approved, passes.
Before we adjourn, can I ask, when we were talking about the construction on City Hall, are we including the secured entrance at the lobby in this work currently?
Got a contingency that can be used for some of that funding. There's like 10 grand. I'm getting proposals now to just do that. Yes.
So I don't know. I would assume the council might want to weigh in here and I would support doing that. Even if it means we have to find the money someplace else, we should do that, I think.
Yes. Before we adjourn, Mitch just like to say a word.
To the council, thank you very much for choosing me tonight. I know it was a difficult decision. Thank you for putting your faith and confidence in me. And I'll do the best I can to the people who supported me. I know that you'll let me know when I'm not doing the right job. So thank you very much.
And with that, we are adjourned. Bam.